call to order this meeting of the Siloam Springs Board of Directors for April 4th, 2023. Roll call.
Carroll.
Here.
Allen. Rissler.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Wiles.
Here.
Smiley.
Here.
Blair.
Here.
At this time, if you all will please stand with me as Director Carroll leads us in a word of prayer and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Good evening, Father. Today we give thanks for the opportunity to come to do the work that you've called us to do as a city, to be the people you've called us to be. We give thanks for this week, the week of Easter, where we have opportunity to look at eternal hope, knowing that you are the answer. We thank you for what you're doing within our city and the light that we can shine. We can be that blessing to not only each other, but to our surrounding communities and to our area. We give thanks for all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Before moving on, I want to make kind of a public service announcement. We are watching the weather, and I know that right now it doesn't look like Siloam Springs will experience severe weather while we're in this meeting, but we are prepared in case that should happen. Our fire chief is monitoring the weather. He will let me know if we have been placed under a watch or ready to have a warning. And we will ask you then at that time for everyone to move to our downstairs area. There will be people to direct you. So just want you to be aware of that should that happen, we have made arrangements and we are prepared to protect you as citizens and keep you safe. So with that said, we will move on then to another item on the agenda. That being our public input time. And before I open the floor for that, last meeting we had a citizen that came to the podium and gave their name and address and asked to yield their remaining 3 minutes to another citizen. That is the first time that I have experienced that request, and so I allowed that to happen. Since that meeting, we have reviewed that, and by that I mean myself, our city attorney, and I have contacted 4 other cities in our region about how they handle that type of request. What they all told me, number one is they had never had that request. The other is that no, they would not allow that because that 3-minute time period is for an individual to be able to speak up to 3 minutes. It is not a time that you can yield or give away to someone else. So unless this board directs me otherwise, from this point on, we will not allow anyone to yield or share a portion of their time at the podium. It will be that way. It's fair for everyone. No one has more time than anyone else. So I appreciate your understanding in that and your cooperation. And again, board, do you have any other directions for me, or are we good with that decision?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Lisa.
This is new information, and since that did occur last time, I did, and I don't know if they're here today, but somebody called me about speaking tonight, and they wanted to know if they went over 3 minutes, and I explained what happened. I don't know if you would make a special circumstance, since that's I don't know what to do with that.
Okay.
Because I don't want to tell the audience wrong, and so I was just telling them based off of what I knew.
If someone comes to the podium and they ask for additional time, it will be up to this board whether you allow that extra time. Remembering that if you allow one of your citizens extra time, You have to leave that open for all of your citizens. The other thing I will ask you is, are you allowing that for this one meeting only? Or do you want to make that a rule change so that there are more than 3 minutes allowed? That will be your call. These are your rules and procedures that we are going by. So that is how we will handle that. Everyone understand that and good with that?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
in my mind, there's a difference between allowing more than 3 minutes and allowing someone to take your allotted 3 minutes.
That is correct.
Okay, just
Yes.
want to make sure we
Yes.
understand what we're all agreeing to or not agreeing to. Okay.
Yes. If there is someone at the podium and they are speaking and they ask for additional time to complete their presentation or their comments, and they ask for that additional time for themselves, that is up to you all to grant that. Okay? We are not sharing time with other people.
Okay.
That's the whole idea. We want it to be fair and equitable for every citizen. So we're not sharing time.
So we will not share time, but we could allow people to, one person to speak extra.
Continue
time.
their, whatever their presentation is, whatever their thought is, their comments that they're bringing to you. If you allow them to go past that 3 minutes, that is your call. But remember, you will have to allow other people that want to do that same privilege.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I think you have been lenient in the past if someone is ending their conversation and it goes past 3 minutes, but you know they're wrapping up and it goes to 3:10, then you've been very fair about that. People at the podium have the 3 minute clock in front of them. They can see where they are on the countdown. And I don't see any reason for us to say, yeah, take another 2 minutes. We set that 3 minute up a long time ago based upon what other cities were doing.
Yes, that's correct.
And it was at the request of the board. And it was because we had someone who was kind of abusing it. And so it was something requested by the board, and I think we need to stick to that.
So, yes, you are right, David. There have been times that someone was completing their presentation or their thoughts to the board, and they have gone over that 3 minute time period by 20 seconds, 15 seconds. And yes, we have allowed that thought to be completed. So then I would ask you, Lisa, is this individual asking for more than just to be able to go over a little bit over the 3 minutes, or are they wanting?
I don't even know if they'll go over. And
Okay.
I think okay, because I've never met her before.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
would you need more than 3 or?
I've prepared a statement. I don't know the time frame on it. It's not lengthy.
Okay.
And I will read it verbatim as I've written it, prepared it. So just stop me when my time's up. I ask for no special time, okay?
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. So with that, we will go on to our public input time. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board on any issue that is not on our regular agenda? Please come to the podium, state your name and your home address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick before the tornado comes in. I'm Arthur Holbert, 20705 Highway 16, Siloam Springs, Manna Mayor City Board. I'd like this to serve as Siloam Springs Chamber of Commerce quarterly update for the City Board of Directors. Overall, there's a lot of good things going on. Dogwood Festival, last weekend of April, want everyone to feel free to come out. Last year we had over 50,000 people there as per some cell phone data that we had. This year it's going to be very, very big. We have over 50 vendors currently on a waiting list. It's going to be real big. I've been working on Fourth Fridays, a collaborative effort between the city, Main Street, and the Chamber. It's going to be pretty big starting in May. Going to be going on for about 3 or 4 months after that. I've been in Little Rock almost the last 12 weeks, meeting with legislators at the request of our own local legislators, building some good relationships. We're continuing to help new businesses get started at the Chamber. We've helped over 40 businesses get started in the last 3 years, one of which is a Western Benton County Partnership. Y'all guys have probably heard me talk a little bit about that. It's a nonprofit. It's one of the 40 that we helped start. Actually, Mark's going to run a big story in the Herald Leader tomorrow on it. Basically, it's a collaborative effort of Siloam Springs, Gentry, Decatur, Gravette, Sulphur Springs, everyone on the Highway 59 corridor. It consists of mayors, judge, superintendents, chambers of commerce, school superintendents, McKee Foods, Simmons Foods, and legislators. Mark Simmons deserves credit and recognition as the visionary behind this because it's one of the first things he asked me to help facilitate 3 years ago when I got in this position. Basically, it's structured much like the Northwest Council that was formed by J.B. Hunt, Sam Walton, Don Tyson, and with them, they were able to get X&A Airport and also the I-49. 5 areas of collaboration include workforce development. Right now, we're working on trying to get high school students in Siloam Springs college credit for their work, working on broadband internet, working on federal, state, and private grants. We've created a database of all the grants we're aware of, state, federal, local level, to help small businesses and also municipalities to be able to get access to some of the state and federal grants. Very big deal. Working on a child care initiative so that people get adequate child care, because if you give child care, you can get people back to work. We're also working on infrastructure. That's our 5th area. 2 weeks ago, we had Lori Tudor. She's the director of Arkansas Department of Transportation here with Commissioner Taldo. A collaborative effort working on issues with Highway 412, 59, Highway 16. So a lot of good opportunities for her to be in our community. Representative Delia Hawk is the executive director of that. I'm thankful I'm an incorporator, chairman of the Workforce Development Committee, chairman for the state and federal grants, and also I'm the presiding co-chair of the Western Benton County Partnership. While inflation is high and interest rates are getting higher, our citizens are still, which is difficult on our citizens, there's still businesses being started and growing and continuing coming here. Last week I did sign an NDA with a multinational company with a global impact considering coming to Northwest Arkansas, Siloam Springs. Can't say anything else about it because it's signed NDA. I pray they come. Easter's next week. First Friday Coffee's Friday. Good Friday. A lot of good things coming on. They may be watching today, and hopefully they find a community that welcomes this business with open arms. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Yes, sir. Please state your name, home address.
My name is B.J. Johnston, and I live at 605 North Buffalo Gap Drive.
Thank you, sir.
I want to tell a story. A number of years ago, I was meeting with a friend who was going through a real rough patch in her life. We were at a Starbucks, and it was beyond my pay grade to really counsel her. I didn't know what to say, but her journey made me think of a story from the book of Mark in the New Testament, chapter 4, verse 35 and following. So I said, I don't know what to say, but can I tell you a story? She said, yes. So this is what I said to her. I said, as evening approached, Jesus said to his disciples, let's cross to the other side of the lake. So they took him in the boat and started off, leaving the crowds behind, although other boats followed. But soon a fierce storm came up. High waves were breaking into the boat, and it began to fill with water. Jesus was sleeping at the back of the boat with his head on a cushion. And his disciples woke him up shouting, "Teacher, don't you care? We're going to drown." And Jesus got up, and he rebuked the wind, and he said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." And the wind stopped, and it became very calm. And then Jesus said, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" And the disciples were absolutely terrified. They asked each other, "Who is this man? Even the wind and waves obey him." And then I said to her, "So you're in a storm right now. So if you're in a storm, is Jesus in your boat?" And she said, "He is." And I said, "Well, if you're in a storm and Jesus is in your boat, where's the safest place for you to be?" And she said, "In the back of the boat, cuddle up with Jesus, because if he's resting in my boat, in my storm, then I can rest. And when he gets up in my boat, in my storm, then I can get up." And I said, "Amen."
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Good
I'm
evening.
Jody Higginbotham. I live at 616 South Wright Street. Madam Mayor, City of Siloam Board of Directors, thank you for this time that you've allotted me. Erica says I'm an edgy person, so I've prepared a statement to keep myself in check not to be edgy this evening.
Jody, would you pull the mic down, please, so we can, yes, ma'am, thank you.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Please know that Eric and I love our home, and we dig living in Siloam. As a youngster, I made memories coming from South Arkansas to Siloam to church camp a long time ago. And I never thought I would call Siloam home, or that Siloam would grow to be such a welcoming, diverse, inclusive town. Last July, when we moved here, we were both impressed with the feel of Siloam, especially the older part of town. We enjoy the fact that at any given time we can walk from our home and experience clean, safe parks, beautiful creeks, diverse eating establishment, and some pretty cool people. We look forward to being proactive residents, example-driven stewards of our home, our neighborhood, and our town. As we enjoy peaceable, low-drama lifestyle, we both are very disheartened, frustrated, and beyond disgusted that in less than a year's time we're addressing an issue, a condition that is habitual and not accidental. Last July was not the first time a complaint, a concern, has been made concerning the removal of a raw sewage cleanout cap, allowing raw human waste to contaminate the surrounding area, our backyard, my neighbor to the north, and the creek on their property line. This is happening at 622 South Wright Street. There were many complaints before July of my initial call. And standing before you this evening is evidence that my phone call last July to code enforcement and their slap on the hand to the property owner, Lysandro Melgard, had absolutely no long-term effect. Monday, March 27th, around 5:30, Erica heard water running that morning. Our schedules don't always match that we can talk to one another during our work days. So that evening, she told me about this. I immediately went out on our back deck to see that sewage cleanout cap yet again removed. Livid's not the word to express what I was. I walked over, knocked on the tenant's door, wanting to offer my assistance in cleaning the mess up and expressing, you cannot do this. He feigned that he didn't understand English. He called the landlord, Melgar, who also feigned he had no idea what I was talking about.
All right, Jody, I need you to go ahead and finish up, please. Thank you.
I have contacted some of the board members, and I've contacted some department heads, and I'm hoping that I don't have to cause myself this anxiety or to be caused this anxiety because I'm shaking like a leaf on a tree. I don't do this. It's not necessary. If a homeowner or property owner cannot take care of his property that does not adversely affect his neighbors and his community, something other than a hand slap needs to be done. And I won't be quiet about this. It's disgusting. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
James McGuirk, 412 West University Street. As the mayor pointed out a little bit ago about the heavy rains we might get, I'm concerned. Because in the past, when we've had heavy rains, the little creek that's next to my house turns into a raging little river, and everything that's upstream ends up in my front yard. And we're not talking just basketballs and stuff like that. I have seen sewage water come out of a manhole cover next to my house and run down in my yard. I would hope that this systems that we have would be addressed sooner or later. This has been happening since we moved back here for that. And I have one more thing. I have a problem with a lot of the city employees that drive around in the city vehicles and stuff and don't wear seatbelts. Not at all. And I have a list. I have a list of 22 different vehicles of people driving them that don't put their seatbelts on. I don't wear a seatbelt, I'm going to get a ticket. I understand that. I was told by one of the guys that work for the city to mind my own effing business. And I said, I will. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Joel Carroll, 2008 North Carl. I was hoping somebody else would be doing this, but this was in our Herald Leader last week, and I couldn't come up with a better way of expressing it. And I think the author of this is more visible and with more authority than I, but I'll read what he says. At the March 21st City Board meeting, the city directors that fired Philip Patterson were once again given the opportunity to explain their actions. Once again, they failed to offer a coherent explanation of why they fired him. They offered us no reason for the termination, offered no insight into their motivation, and offered no discussion on how his termination would benefit the community. This action has all the appearance of a premeditated and pre-planned move that will allow no public discussion and gave no previous warning of what was brewing. There may be a whiff of arrogance here, but we don't have to answer to you, the public, and these reflecting what you must be thinking. We know what's best. I wonder if we're not already entered into the darkness in Siloam Springs. More specific of last week, one of our directors alluded to the fact that there were some issues involved. If those issues were relating to management of our city, then they need to be finding themselves in this venue rather than over a cup of coffee in an unknown place. Another is talking about the contract. If I was to accept a contract that was subject to political vulnerability, I'd make sure that it was at least $250,000 disaffecting. However, I would hope that we would hire a management that's not known for his political prowess, but for his effectiveness of being one who is able to keep the city in order. And due diligence, well, I stand at the time when I look like Pilate. Where's the truth? So help me God.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Please state your name and home address, please.
Madam Mayor, Brian McKenzie, 104 South Maxwell Street. Last meeting, my friend Casey said that he missed a time when these board meetings were boring. I do too, and I think that they were boring because what we did was we trusted you as our legislature to act with honor and integrity and to bring us the facts. Bring the facts to a credible city. We can make our own decisions. Mr. Letellier, Mr. Howard, Mr. Feierabend, and Mr. Lanker all followed Mr. Estes' advice. He encouraged mutual respect, saying that the community is watching. We are watching. And what we've seen from the public is acting with honor and integrity. What we have not seen is the same actions from some members of the board. There has been a pattern of language, particularly from some directors, personal attacks, lies, gaslighting, and mendacity against certain citizens of this city. I would ask that they remember that they're in a position of trust, and they should act with integrity and not use lies to direct personal attacks to members of this city, to its citizens. And that is particularly something I would wish Director Allen would remember. He has bullied members of the city from
Point
this.
of order. We do not direct comments directly to, they only go to the mayor.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
some
sir.
board members have acted in this way. They've bullied members of the public standing at this lectern. They've acted with disrespect to their colleagues, including yourself. I think that some of these directors should either resign their post or they should be recalled. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else?
Kelsey Howard, 312 South College Street. The last few years, I've been thinking a lot about the importance of civic engagement, but feeling quite daunted because, as important as I believe that it is, it's daunting to find the time to be responsibly engaged. Life is demanding. Many are involved in church and civic organizations and service organizations, helping family and friends. So this is why I'm so grateful for all of you directors. I'm grateful for all of you who take the time to research and prepare for these meetings and the many significant decisions that you have the responsibility to make. The residents of Siloam Springs rely on the information that you provide, your guidance to navigate often complex problems, challenges, and opportunities for the board to consider in these meetings. However, civic engagement becomes that much more challenging when board members present and spread inaccurate and misleading information. I've spoken with many Siloam residents, especially after Director Allen's director report last meeting, feeling unsettled and confused. And there are dozens of citizens who have since been really committed to research, to submit Freedom of Information Act requests, to contact city officials statewide, and to consult the Arkansas Municipal League. No one is perfect. Honest mistakes happen. But what concerns me is the frequency of inaccuracies, the pattern of certain board members misleading the public. This town deserves thoughtful and diligent leaders who are committed to providing accurate information to this town's hardworking and taxpayers and electors. So there was a lot of misleading information shared in the last meeting. And so in the spirit of civic engagement, informed civic engagement for the public, I'd like to share and address a bit about those comments that I felt were misleading. First, the severance package being doubled in 2020. Director Allen said that I've never seen a contract like that in all my life. However, on August 4th of 2020, the motion passed unanimously for the board, that board, and all were present to approve that contract, to approve that agreement. And also, it is based on the ICMA model, and I actually have the ICMA model here, where the recommended severance package is equal to 12 months salary and then the current rate of pay. And I'm out of time. Can I finish up my thought?
Just finish your thought.
Just that same agreement. Director Allen said that the state law was conveniently changed so that it would prevent a city administrator from being fired by the board in the first 60 days of a new board member being sworn in. However, according to section 1448.116, that wasn't conveniently changed in 2020. It hadn't been amended since 1983. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Feierabend, 414 South Wright Street. I'm going to continue on the things that Director David Allen has said that are false. David also said in the last meeting he said on March 13th that Steve Beers was a city director when he said on the steering committee the last time we hired a city administrator. And that's not true. Renee came back and corrected that. And so it shows another time when David insisted that he knew the truth and that no one else knew the truth. David also claimed that in 2020, when Philip's severance was doubled.
Matt,
Oh, she already said that.
I would ask that you not name directors, please. Just keep your thoughts.
So he can name me in the comments, just so we're clear.
No, sir. We are asking the directors to also be
Not name
considerate.
citizens. Okay.
Yes, yes, sir.
Sounds good. That same director in 2020 said, now why would that happen in 2020? We are only one of 2 cities in the state of Arkansas that has a city administrator form of government. Again, not true. It's Fort Smith, Siloam Springs, and the city of Barling. So there's 3. That director also went on to say that not all board members gave Philip glowing reviews and claimed that he had personally put things in the reviews that got completely ignored. So we reached out to the city and we asked for those reviews. And what they responded with was that they could not release those reviews because nothing placed in those reviews related to the firing of Philip Patterson. So if that director put anything in there, it did not lead to the firing of Philip Patterson. It was totally unrelated. So it's a misleading of the public. What we have is a concerted, consistent effort to mislead the public on what the truth is. Also, that same director is claiming on Facebook that a recall would cost $100,000. And I said, I bet we can get that answer if we just call the Benton County Election Commission. And you want to know what that cost is? The estimated cost is $8,645.03. Not even 10% of what that director is claiming. Again, another attempt to mislead the public, to misinform the public, to lead them to believe things that are not true. That same director said there's an awful lot that some of these board members don't know, and said because they don't research like I do. I think you guys can see where that research has led that director and how that leads to consistent misinforming of the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Jordan Howard, 312 South College.
Thank you.
In addition to being misleading, the tone from the directors last session was dismissive and patronizing, as if our concerns about their performance were not valid. One of them even told us to move on, as if they just expect us to look the other way. I've talked to and heard of so many people who either work with the city, work for the city, have a small business, or just have a prominent role in the community who agree with the recall and would like to be involved, but they can't. They can't speak out, can't sign a petition because they're afraid of the repercussions, afraid that using their free speech to say what they believe will negatively impact their livelihoods. And their fear is justified. We've already seen what happens to city employees who run afoul of this board majority. Termination without cause, in spite of excellent performance. But that fear is exactly the reason why we need to do these recalls. As free Americans in the 21st century, we cannot and will not allow ourselves to be led by fear and intimidation. We need to stand up against bullies and stand up for those that feel they can't stand up for themselves. A citizen in a democracy should always feel free to say when they think their elected representatives have done a bad job. Remember, they work for us, and we do have just cause for the recall. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? If not, I will ask. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
He's a lot taller than I am. Casey Letelier, 610 East Delaware Street. I want to be brief, but I feel like we've uncovered something here that's wrong, that's sick. We have skin cancer, and none of us want to look at that. it's really distressing. So our options are addressing it head on and trying to fix it, or putting a Band-Aid on it. Putting a Band-Aid on it feels like a short-term fix, but it doesn't go away. So I would encourage anyone who's out here watching, go to unitesiloam.com and please get involved. Help us with this recall effort. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Rebecca Wyatt, 1109 East Jewel Street.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you for.
Rebecca, would you speak into the mic, please?
I wanted to say thank you for letting us know that we didn't have what I would consider a democratic leadership here. And I personally don't want one person being able to hire and fire so many people without the board's consent. So I'm not in agreement with the petition. I would personally not sign a petition that I did not know the facts. And if you go to the last board meeting online and listen to the director's comments, you can hear there was just cause for letting Mr. Patterson go. And I really thank you for checking out your facts. Even if somebody says they're a Christian, but they're asking you to sign a petition that you don't know for sure is true, please don't sign something. That isn't the way we should act as a community. And 4 of the 7 board members did vote in termination of Mr. Patterson. And then a 5th one even said he was fired for cause. So you can go on YouTube and you can watch our last town council meeting and you can listen to those comments. And so I just thank you for representing us, and I really want to live in peace. I want God to bless our town, and I just ask people to pray, even if you can't come here, if you're not able to speak, but to pray and intercede for our town, because we really want to live in peace, and we want to be kind to our neighbors and to love them even if they have different viewpoints. But I do want a democratic, as much as I can, a democratic government that leads my town. And so thank you so much for voting to let his contract be expired. And I hope the next contract will not be a severance package of more than 3 months, so it's not used kind of like as a blackmail. If you fire me kind of thing, it's going to cost the town so much money. So I'm very sorry for what has happened here and the people that have stood up and voted to let his contract go. And so I thank you for trying so hard to lead a government that is democratic. So there are many people praying, and we do love you, and thank you so much for your efforts.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? If not, next I will ask if there is anyone here that would like to speak to an item that is on our consent agenda tonight. If there is not, we will move on to the consent agenda, and thank you all for being here. And I'm sorry, I almost forgot we have a presentation. So thank you all for being here tonight and for your input. And at this time, we do have a presentation by the Manna Center. Marla, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, city directors, and staff. After sitting over there for 4 years, this is quite a different perspective. And as a teacher, I'll probably want to turn around and talk to everybody behind me. So please bear with me. And I'm going to have to get back to the beginning of my show. All right. this is the Manna Center's 30th year of being part of your community. We have fed and clothed many citizens and have grown quickly by doing that. I frequently mention the Manna Center in my director's reports because I have such a big heart for it, because it's done so much for me and it's done so much for the community. The Manna Center started in 1993 on Ashley Street, just little side street. Couple of days a week they'd hand out older bread. And then it moved, and then the main one that I remember was on Kenwood Street. That's the one that I really got involved in, and would use it to shop and stuff. And then it was decided that we needed to build a new building, and so with agreements with some of the property owners and gracious people in Siloam, we were given some land to build. So I'm going to go through quickly and show you some of the things that are happening at the Manna Center. So this is our location. We're right across from the Boys and Girls Club, and we're right behind the Senior Activity Center. We have a very small parking lot, and it fills up real quickly in the mornings. But we love our location. We get to see the kids from the Boys and Girls Club during the summer walking over to get their lunches. And we're able to serve a lot of people. And right now we're serving, and serving I mean giving food to. We don't prepare food. About 50 families. We average between 35 to 50 families every day between the hours of 9 and 11:30. And on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we take food to the community and reach up to 900 families every week. It's astonishing, and I want to show you some of the things that we have to do. With our food pantry, last year we fed over 20,000 individuals. And I mentioned the 900 families that we take food to. We do this in conjunction with some of the area churches and just different volunteers. We take it to some schools, and most of the food that we get is salvage recovery. Last year, our tonnage was 1.56 million pounds of food. There's our truck. There's Joe, my driver. Drives, we go all over. We go to Elm Springs Walmart. We go to the Sam's in Springdale, and we pick up salvage. And of the 1.56 million pounds, only 10% of it was purchased. And that amount was over $90,000. So we're recovering a lot of salvage that would end up in the trash. And it's good, usable food. So you'll see our truck on the road. Just wave and let Joe go on about his work. So, but we are very proud of the work that we're done. God has blessed us so much. Through the whole pandemic, we have not once run out of food. Not once. We are a Tyson Community Partner Pantry. Tyson's contacted us. We went through the interview process, and we have unlimited amount of protein. Also, I work with some of, they call community of practice groups, and I'm working with UAMS and one of the Children's Hospital, and there's about 40 other organizations that we meet, and we talk about how can we improve the needs of the food in this area. So there's a lot of interest, but we're on Western Benton County, and we're on the state line, and we see a lot of people from Oklahoma, but we can't forget our neighbors in any way. So it's kind of hard to read, but the first year was 2013 that I put the numbers in, and then you can see the numbers for last year. That's how we've grown in just that little space of time. And Most of my volunteers are in their 70s and 80s, some in their 90s, and they do all this moving of food, and it's unreal. But you know, we see God working every day, and we see miracles every day through the gracious donations of citizens. Through our thrift store, we're able to sell items, to raise money, to purchase food, pay utilities, and then we also give clothing to our clients. And this is how many people we helped through those years. So for those 10 years, we gave out over $625,000 worth of $2, $3, and $4 clothing. So it's amazing, but that clothing comes from the community. And so we are blessed to have such the support that we have. So our thrift store, the donations, they are one of the driving forces. They're the lifeblood of the organization. Everything that comes in, we wash, we dry, we iron, and we put it out. And I can't thank the community enough, because you're helping us feed your neighbors. This is the number of clients that we served, and one of the numbers is a darker green. That's the number of children. And I want you to look how that fluctuates, and it doesn't stay the same as the others grow. And it makes me wonder sometimes, are children not getting fed? And we know that the schools have had to pick up and send food home. So we're missing something there. And I hope that eventually the school lunches and breakfasts will become free for everybody. I don't think that anyone should have to pay for them, because the kids need to be fed, and we're not reaching all of them right there in proportion to the other numbers. So in doing this, we're in great need. We have outgrown our facility. When we hand out food, this is the inside. We have a forklift, we have 2 vans, we have a box truck, and we have the reefer truck. Every evening we have to bring the forklift in, and the fresh produce that we get from the food bank, inside there's no room. Every day we push carts out, and we've got about 7 carts that we just keep going through, filling them up, sending them out. And we don't have a work area, and it's becoming unsafe. And so we keep most of the stuff outside, weather permitting. This is one of the days that we are putting out food for the pickups to be made. You can see a pallet of fresh stuff that came from Sam's. But this is on our back parking lot, so my volunteers are having to park at the Boys and Girls Club or in our front parking lot. And then the clients that need to get into the store can't, because there's no parking. And they go to the senior center, and it's just an overflow problem. This is just one day of working. You can see our reefer truck is full. We have items sitting out behind the building, and we've got the forklift going. This is 3 days a week we do this. We have no covering, and but we get it done. And, you know, God holds off the rain as much as he can for us. So, you know, we're just blessed. And I'm not complaining. We've got food. We just don't have anywhere to put it right now. Where the school lets us store 12 to 14 pallets of frozen food in their new freezer. And we have 2 storage sheds that we can keep some canned items in. This is a distribution that happens every Thursday morning. This Thursday morning, I've got 225 whole turkeys coming in to send out with this group. You know, it's amazing that the lives are being touched through this ministry. And we have 1 garage door. the forklift will not go up and down the little slope very well, especially if you got a load on it or the tires are wet. But we fill up the parking lot, and this is what it looks like when we distribute year round, 900 families from that parking lot. So we also don't have a fenced area to keep our trucks in, so we have to keep them off site because we've had, I didn't know vans had 2 catalytic converters, but ours was taken off twice. And so we can't leave anything parked there. They drill holes in the bottom of our gas tank. So it would be nice to be able to expand, but we don't have anywhere to go. We can't go up, we can't go forward, we can't go back, but we can go down the road. This is the vacant lot that was going to be a fire station that the city owns, but instead they redid the fire station downtown. Our request is we would like to lease that property, much like you lease the land at the airport for the hangars and such, so that we could build a new facility that has docks for loading, has a fenced area. The building would need to be 12 to 14,000 square feet. Right now, we're in the top left corner, and we're at 7,000 feet, and it's not enough room. So that's the request, along with our celebration of 30 years for the Manna Center. And I'll let you read for yourself. We would like to lease the property. And so I asked the board what they feel and if this would be something that would be something that we could plan for. Thank you, Madam Mayor and board.
Thank you, Marla.
Sure.
And before I come back to the board, I'm sorry, are you through with your presentation?
Yes, yes, and I didn't know if anyone from the city wanted to add anything.
Yes, I am going to ask Don if he would like to come and give some information. I believe you all have talked about.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Board, Don Clark, Community Development Director. So this was brought to my attention a few weeks ago, so I'm going to kind of wrap up or bring into light the conversation that I've had with Mrs. Sappington and a few others at the request of Christina Patricis. Thank you, Marla. I want to say that publicly, and the staff at the Manna Center for their work. I went by, I visited, and I was overwhelmed with what they are doing for our community. Thankful that we have someone who's doing this work for the vulnerable families in our area, and also left reminded that as we grow as a community, so do the needs. So what I'd like to bring to your attention is it was a board goal for 23-24 to develop a plan for a citywide community recreation center. So the plan currently is for us to explore opportunities and options and then bring that back to you in the fourth quarter of 2024 with where it could take place. We're planning on our 27 acres just to the east of the hospital. And then at that time, what we would like to do is, once I was aware of this, we visited with Marla. There are a few other communities who have recently built recreation centers that we're going to go and visit. A few of those are located on property that also locates the Boys and Girls Club. So when this came to mind, we thought about it a little bit. The Boys and Girls Club, where they currently are, they're kind of landlocked themselves, very close to where the Manna Center is, as Marla said. They kind of share parking. So what we would like to explore, if you are willing to allow this, is that in looking into that citywide community recreation center on those 27 acres, we explore the opportunity of having the Boys and Girls Club relocate to that same area. Simply because, like I said, as we grow as a community and the school district grows, so does the need, and that also affects the Boys and Girls Club, and they're landlocked. So I went to visit with Ms. Sappington about this. I had a conversation with Chris Schimmer. Again, this is all just very exploratory, that if we were able to figure that out when we come to you in the fourth quarter of 24 and say, here's the plan, here's what can be done. The Boys and Girls Club could also be located on this 27 acres. Then there's a building right next to them that could become empty. That is, I believe, almost twice, if not almost 3 times the size. So I had a conversation with Chris Schimmer, obviously, very, very high-level conversation. He was aware that we wanted to look at trying to have the Boys and Girls Club co-locate or be very near the recreation center if were able to build one in the future. So he was open to that conversation and be involved in that process as we go forward. Look at it and see if it's feasible. Should it not be feasible, then we could come back and simply, as I talked to Marla, said we already have a template that we use at the airport. We could do the same thing here with a 25-year lease for them, which will allow them to then go and seek funding for that building, but also with a 10-year renewal. Should we find a way for it to be feasible that the Boys and Girls Club be located with our community-wide recreation center, I think there are a lot of advantages to that. The school district had a quick conversation with them for bus routes, the growth of the city. It being very close to their campus, high school campus could offer a lot. So I just wanted to bring that up and see if you would be willing to entertain that. Again, I talked to Marla. After they secure land, I think you're still looking at a 3 to 5 year timeline for campaigning and trying to get funds. So I don't think this holds them up any. This gives us time to explore this and see what the feasibility of it is. And obviously, whatever is proposed, we'll have to come back to you for your decision. And as we go in further into that process, we would keep you apprised of what we're looking at and what are we hearing from the community as far as their needs. You've already heard before when we brought to you the youth baseball, the community asking for more facilities. So we would explore all those options and then come back to you with some type of a plan. But I wanted to see if you would entertain that before you discussed any further. If during that time frame we can look at the feasibility of relocating the Boys and Girls Club, and then there's a building that's already there, built, and I believe is paid for. So they would then just negotiate with the Boys and Girls Club, and then that land to the north that we own that is owned by the city could then, if we need to in the future for the same need with the Manna Center, be expanded upon. So I just wanted to provide that, and I'm available for any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. So now I will turn to the board. And yes, Betsy. And then we'll go to Ken.
A few things. I love that idea. That's awesome. I've been worried. I think the Manna Center is super important. But then I also worry about giving up city land, like if we do need a fire station or there's something like that in the future. So I absolutely love that. And the rec center, I think we need, and looking at like Simmons and Walton Foundation, I spoke with some people from there this week and they said they'd be interested in helping with that. I know the Manna Center is busting at the seams right now. I also know Tyler Carroll has a warehouse available. Have you spoken with him at all? I just thought for right now, and especially if the Manna Center and the Boys and Girls Club ends up at the rec center, that would give an immediate solution. It's a huge warehouse. I don't know if that's something y'all want to get together and discuss. And I wanted to say, I love it that you salvage food. That is so cool. I've always thought that was just such a waste, and there's so many people that need it out there. So, okay, that's all.
Thank you. Ken?
Well, I had a few questions as Marla was giving her presentation, but pretty much those have been answered. I am 100% behind this. I think that would be a great thing to be able to do so you could continue your operation. Don, just one quick question. I'm sorry. More out of curiosity now than anything, since we've discussed some of the other things that you threw out. That property, I know it was at one time for maybe possibly a fire department. Is there anything that's being discussed at this time? Or is it just, it's there if we need it?
think that was absolutely something that was looked at. I believe that was with a previous fire administration, the current administration, Chief Kreiner looked at, and you could always correct me if I'm wrong here. So there's, response matrix that they look at, felt like that if we were to build one in that area that they would overlap. I think the goal would be now is to build one further east where the growth pattern currently is. Also, through the comprehensive plan, we explored some of those things when we talked about future facilities. Further east would be, again, beneficial because of the traffic on 412. Response times, if they were closer there and there was something that happened further east on 412, a fire station on that side of town would allow them to respond quicker versus if it's there, you still have to work your way through. So You're right. It was explored for that, and I think, and Chief can correct me if I'm wrong, I think we've moved off of that because of the current growth pattern of the city.
And so there's no other conversation being held for another use at this time?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
I really appreciate that idea. I've long thought that we needed a more advanced senior or an activity center. I've been to the Manna Center. I know how tight it is in there. It's amazing what they get in there, how they have worked with all the space and the lack of space. I really want to commend Marla on the good job that she has done for our community because it has helped a lot of people. She's donated things to the animal shelter, which I really appreciate, and I know that they have things that she gets that she can forward on to other areas in the community. So I think an activity center would be great. I've long thought we needed one that not only just takes care of the kids, but adults. And I don't know, have you looked at the one over in Rogers? Are you going to visit that one?
So there's some communities in central Arkansas that have built more recently. And then there's some in Oklahoma that we're going to visit that I think, again, there's a lot we're going to have to figure out. We have an aging aquatic center that we've got to figure out that's landlocked. There's a growing phenomenon and need for pickleball. So we have to figure that out as well as we look at all this. And we want to utilize every single bit of that 27-acre parcel. So it's really just starting those steps of going and visiting some of these places and look and see how they operate, and then what can make the most sense to fit the needs of our community.
Well, that's similar to the way we did when we were looking to build a new library. We went to a lot of different areas,
yes,
looked
ma'am.
at what libraries worked, what didn't work. So I'm glad to see that we are going to be going forward with that. We're a very active community, and I think that's great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Madam Mayor?
Yes. Mindy?
I like the idea of moving the Boys and Girls Club. My question related to Marla's original proposal is if the Manna Center were to build a building on city property, who owns the building then? Because they would pay for the building, but then how does that work?
It's a great question. That's why we kind of do it in the fashion we do at the airport, because it's very similar. They would lease the land, they would own the building until the lease runs out, and then it can convey back to the city. Should the board say, we've never got to that point where, at the airport, if somebody was to say, hey, look, I no longer wish to occupy this structure, I want to sell it, we get first right of refusal.
But the city would buy the building.
We have the option to buy, correct.
I like the idea if you all have the ability to wait for 2 or 3 years for extra space. I do think that would be a wonderful space for you all where the Boys and Girls Club is now, if we move them out to this yet to be determined recreational facility.
Yes. And I want to make sure I say this on record. We're not moving anyone today. We're just going to be talking about it. So make sure, how sometimes people take something, they run with it. We just want to explore the opportunity and look at the feasibility under a model you've already asked us to deliver something else in.
Right.
Etsy?
So this is happening next week. Just teasing.
Hey, it's just money, right? So,
Exactly. Because you were talking about pickleball and other things and needs of the city, whether we want to face it or not, we do have a homeless population, and I think that's also something we need to keep in mind of we're going to need space and we're going to need facilities and things like that. So I'm just going to start throwing it out there now.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Reed.
I'd like to speak with Marla, please.
Yes, sir.
Concerning Manna Center and concerning our area churches, one of the needs that I see within our churches as a whole, because we have several in Siloam Springs area, is their ability to be able to help and administer things to those in need. And I'm wondering, do you already have in place a partnership where if someone comes to a church and they don't have the ability to help a family, but they can even drive them up to the Manna Center to be a part of that, not to turn them over to you per se, but to partner with you on that so that you don't carry the full load of that. Is it something like that already in place?
Director Carroll, that's a good idea, but we are doing that. Right now, we are partnered with Gentry Seventh-day Adventist Church, Hiawassee First Baptist Church. They come and get food from us. If anybody needs food, all they have to do is ask. Okay. We don't turn anybody down. We work with the chaplains at Simmons. We work with some of the maintenance and cooks at the schools. We work with Bright Futures and help with food for that. Anybody, we do socks, underwear, toys. I gave out over $100,000 worth of toys this year. Didn't cost me anything. Thank you, Uncle Sam at Walmart. We recover everything. All a person has to do is ask. And I will attest to the fact I asked for something one day and God provides it in a day or two. I mean, we were needing a trash can or a bicycle for someone, and here it comes from my Walmart stuff. So, I'm open to working with anybody. The only thing is our hours are very limited, and all they have to do is call me. We'll meet them up there. But no one should go without food.
Okay. Well, one of the reasons I asked that question is, yes, you're going to help any and everybody without question on that. But the churches that are partnering with you, maybe they can reciprocate that back. And when you need extra space or what have you, maybe the churches that you work with could work with you.
We go through so much food. It doesn't stay in the building very long. What I order every Tuesday, I spend $2,000 to $3,000 every Tuesday. Every single Tuesday. I'm spending that right now to feed the families. We go through the food really, really fast. And a lot of the fresh produce and stuff is not shelf stable, which means we have to, get it out as quick as we can. But as for storing it there or anything like that, we get our food in on pallets and we move it with our forklift, and we just can't take the forklift down the road, or it won't fit in the reefer truck. That's the biggest truck we have, because we're too old. We're 60, 70, 80, and some 90-year-olds, and we can't pick a box at a time up anymore, or get it ready to go out. We're a forklift. We're big time. So yes, it would be nice to be able to store stuff, but the feasibility isn't there because we need the food at hand because we go through it so quickly.
Have a need for proximity and availability then.
Right, and outdoor shelter would be great. If someone wants to build us a shed out back, or garage. But we're just really busy, and we've grown so much. But You know, the churches are wonderful. They give us, monetary donations. I have wonderful volunteers. So we do have partnerships throughout the city. And I have never been turned down when I ask for something from anybody.
Thank you.
And that attests to our community.
Anyone else? If not, then I would ask if kind of the direction of this board is to have our community development director explore the rec center and bring information back to you all as he gets that together. And then at this time, do you want to consider Marla's request, or would you like to wait until we perhaps have some more information from Dawn before you move forward with the request for looking at a lease for the property? Yes.
I would like to have a little bit of time to pursue and make sure we're making the right decisions for everybody, even if we do it at our next meeting.
Sure. Is that an agreement with everyone that perhaps we'll address this at our next meeting? We'll have our administrator put together information for you, and then you all can consider that at your next board
Madam
meeting.
Mayor, could we put it on our agenda for next?
We will put it on the agenda, yes.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just
Ken.
one quick question.
Yes.
Marla, what was the time frame you were looking at? I mean,
3 to 5 years. I operate off of grants and private family foundations, and so I'm going to have to get my backers in. Our building is paid for in about 3 months, so we've got lots of equity. But there's a lot of people out there that love the Manna Center, and it's going to be a big campaign.
Right. Well, I guess my question is what I'm thinking. And again, I mean, this is great, and I'm for it 100%, but do we have to have a lease agreed upon, drawn up in the next 3 months?
I don't believe so. I would just like to have the assurity that if the Boys and Girls Club does not move or decides not to, that we would be able to lease that land. Because of proximity.
Question for Dawn. If we go ahead and move forward and grant this lease, and then it works out to where all of what you're talking about works out, would we cancel the lease so she could have the other property, or would we go ahead and honor the lease along with the other property?
I think you could do it a couple different ways. I think you could absolutely rescind the lease if we wanted to give her some type of standing to say we could move into a lease at this moment now, meaning like at the next board meeting or in the next month, so they have something that she could start her campaigning on, because most people want to know where you're going to put it. We could do that, absolutely. And it could all be subject to, if we don't move forward and the rec center thing doesn't pan out, they have something to stand on, and it doesn't really cost them any more time. That was one of my questions too, Marla. Like, if we explore this, it's not going to set you back, and she assured me no, because it's going to take me some time to figure out, where to go next. But that's something that could be done. We could fashion together a lease, bring it to you so we can talk through it, or we can just simply wait until that report that's due to you guys in 2024. And we could, if we know at that point, at any point of this feasibility approach, that it doesn't look like it's going to pan out, I can contact Marla. We can get together and get a lease in front of you as soon as possible, because we're as city staff open to leasing that land to them for that reason, should the need arise.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
Carol mentioned at the next meeting, but I don't want to rush Dawn if Dawn needs more time, that maybe. Would you rather 2 meetings from now, Dawn, for the time you need to?
So I think what we would be doing is, what we could do in a week or 2 is put together a lease for for that property that you could see and review and see if you're comfortable with that. Again, Jay or Christina, y'all can tell me to be quiet, but I think there's nothing wrong with getting that lease together. So again, it gives her some type of assurances that she has something. And we could do that, you know, in the next meeting or two. And we can still explore the feasibility of co-locating the Boys and Girls Club with us.
That's what I was talking about. How long do you think you'd need for that part of it?
So the board goal, I believe, we are to bring back a report to you in the, I think the second, or is it third quarter of 24, Travis? I can't remember. It's either second or third quarter of 24 with the feasibility of what a recreation center would look like after having some communications with the public to allow them to have input. And then we come and say, hey, we could put it here. The cost is X. And once we talk about the cost, we can talk about ways to fund it at that point in time. That probably won't happen before that second or third quarter of 2024 because there's a lot to be done into it. But in the meantime, if we want to give her some assurances, we could fashion together a lease for her to have that.
Feasibly, what you had pictured as a community rec center, I think would have required a lot more of the land than that one piece. Am I right? I mean, it seems like it's an awful small piece of land to do what the goal had been, I thought, in terms of size.
So, great point. So, I may have not been clear on that. So, the acreage we're looking at for the rec center would be the 27 acres we own just to the east of the hospital. And so, that 27 acres looks to be more than enough after doing some aerial study of some of these newer rec centers that we could build a rec center, maybe indoor-outdoor pool, walking trail, pickleball courts, and maybe some multi-use outdoor fields as well.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to give you as much time as you need, whether that's 2, 3, 4 weeks. And I guess I understand, Marla, that you're wanting the assurance of a lease so that you can start raising money for a building to put on this property. And yet, if this rec center does come to pass, and that's where, and then you feel like the Boys and Girls Club space is where you need to move, then you will have raised money based on the building there, so that's a little bit of that creates a little bit of confusion.
Director Hunt, there's going to be several modifications that we have to do to the building, and so when we present the fundraising to our supporters, we would let them know that we have 2 options.
Okay. So it would be either modifications to the current building. So you're going to need the money regardless.
Regardless,
okay.
Because we're going to have to put in freezers and build a dock and everything. So,
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Marla, that's what I was going to ask you. What is your opinion of that building? Because it will require a lot of customization.
I feel like the gym area is going to be very optimal for what we need, with the shelving for putting pallets of food on the shelves and stuff. And it's got great parking. It's got a little fenced-in area and office area that would be great. That would allow us to free up some of the office area where we're at. So, you know, it'd be nice to build our own building like we want it, but to have the opportunity to step into something like that and just make the modifications, because a lot of our supporters and donors are specific to what they will support. Like, there's some that will say, we'll put you a brand new walk-in freezer in, and so it's not going to cost us anything. We just got to do the wiring and getting the plumbing and stuff done. But I think it'll be fine. There's nothing perfect, because it changes every day for us.
Yes, Carol.
You know what the square footage is of the Boys and Girls Club? Either one of you?
I think it's just shy of 15,000 square feet, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And your current building is 7,000 square feet.
But my question would be, would you be using both buildings?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David?
I remember when the city bought this land, and you may have already discussed this, Don, I didn't catch it. Is the Boys and Girls Club on city-owned land, or did we sell that to the Boys and Girls Club?
I believe they own the land.
They own
And they own the building, if I recall correctly, free and clear at this
I
point.
didn't know if we had leased them the land the way Marla was talking about lease. So I just remember long ago, we had bought that entire piece, and so I didn't know if we'd sold it, so.
And if I'm incorrect, I'll correct that at the next meeting, but I believe they own
I
it.
just didn't know if it was a situation of us owning the land, but them owning the building, because, I mean, it was a long-term solution for them when we partnered with them, so. But I just didn't know if we'd actually sold it to them or not.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure we don't own that.
So that was one of the things I was going to add. One of the advantages we thought, as well as the ceiling height, already matches what they need. It would probably not be advantageous if the ceiling height wasn't there available in that gym space. But on my visit with her, I noticed they had no stacking space in the current facility. And so the advantages of any building, whether it be this one or a new one, they would need to be afforded the ability to have racks where they can stack food and keep it off the floor.
Thank you. So after this discussion, then I am kind of getting the idea that perhaps Christina?
What I'm hearing is maybe we bring back a lease with potential option to make that contingent on whether or not we co-locate the Boys and Girls Club.
And would you like to do our next meeting or perhaps the first meeting in May?
I would prefer the first meeting in May. if
And I
that's
think
fine with the
everyone's
board.
agreeable to that, so, okay. Good. Marla, that sound good to you? Okay. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Appreciate what you do there. So next is our consent agenda. And before we get into that, staff has asked, Board, that we pull item K, which is the kayak park lease agreement with the Illinois River Watershed Partnership, for a separate discussion after we get finished with the consent agenda. So we will address that separately from the other items on the agenda. So with that, then, we will look at the remaining items. Item A, regular meeting minutes, March 21st, 2023. B, dedication of utility easements and right-of-way, 2002 South Mount Olive Street. Item C, dedication of utility easements, 4,000 block of Ridge Road. Item D, dedication of utility easements and right-of-way, 2,000 block of Brashears Road. Item E, budget amendment, Public Works Department, Street Division, Downtown Fog, Seal, and Restripe, $48,507.12. Item F, Electric Department, Traffic Signal Detection Equipment, H-GAC, Consolidated Traffic Controls Incorporated, $194,680.36. Item G, Budget Amendment, Electric Department, Traffic Signal Equipment, $77,781.88. Item H, Purchase, Electric Department, Kubota Mini Excavator from Springdale Tractor Company, $98,796.22. Item I, Police Department, additional vehicle purchases, $122,000. Item J, Budget Amendment, Agreement for Engineering Services, Garver LLC for East Kenwood Street, $589,041.00. And then item L, the 2022 Destruction Affidavit. Directors, is there any item that you would like to have pulled from the consent agenda for further discussion? If there is not, I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda with item K being removed.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley?
Yes.
Wiles?
Yes.
Hunt?
Yes.
Rissler?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Consent agenda is approved with item K removed. So we will move on to item K, which is the kayak lease agreement. And Travis, I believe you are going to present that to the board.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Board of Directors, Travis Cheney, Parks and Recreation Manager. I guess lease of city property is the theme for this evening, but you have before you a staff recommendation to approve a seasonal lease of the Siloam Springs Kayak Park by Illinois River Watershed Partnership. And staff thought it was appropriate to put together a little presentation to give yourselves and the public some more context behind what we're hoping to do and what we are recommending for approval this evening. If any of y'all have been out there, we have the Siloam Springs Kayak Park south of town, which was constructed in 2014 through a grant from the Walton Family Foundation given to the city to manage. It was designed to be a regional destination for whitewater enthusiasts, paddle sports athletes, and it's really an amazing facility. Shortly upon opening, we discovered that lots of people, not just kayakers, love the kayak park. And so now I would estimate that the vast majority of the users on the busy summer weekends are picnicking families, tubers, folks enjoying the stream side. And that's what it has kind of grown into. Now, to give you a sense of the scale of what we're seeing at the kayak park in terms of use and what the facilities allow, this is our data from last year of attendance at the kayak park. That gray dotted line at the top is 6,000 people on the 4th of July. So there were 6,000 people at the Siloam Springs Kayak Park on the 4th of July last year. These are our metrics for the season last year, which would be approximately from beginning of May to end of August. We had 57,000 visits to the Siloam Springs Kayak Park during that 3 and 4 month period in the summer. And so if you take those big numbers out, we have 100 parking spaces at the Siloam Springs Kayak Park, and there were 6,000 people there on the 4th of July last year, and 57,000 people there last summer. And so much like the Manna Center, we have a facility that cannot accommodate currently the use. And you'll see in our staff report there that because of the popularity of the kayak park, it's unfortunately produced some undesirable outcomes for landowners nearby. Illegal parking on Fisher Ford Road in the summertime has been a huge issue because, again, there's only 100 parking spaces. And so people will park illegally up and down Fisher Ford Road, sometimes a quarter of a mile on both sides in both directions. Over in the past, Benton County Roads has put out some boulders to try to prevent that, put up signs. But and Siloam PD, I believe, and I can be corrected, has a memorandum of understanding with the County Roads Department. They can tow folks who are illegally parked. But oftentimes when city police are busy in town, by the time they get down there may already be 100 cars parked illegally on the road. And it's a big deal to try to tow that many cars. If any of y'all have a tow truck business, you probably know that. Yeah. So these are the numbers, kind of the realistic numbers we're looking at for management of the kayak park. And so it is the opinion of city staff that our current management strategy needs to change, and that we need to take a much more active management approach down there to, one, protect both private and public investments at the kayak park, to improve the visitor experience. A really big thing is we need to improve safety down there. The park was not designed to accommodate 6,000 people in one day safely. I believe the size of the parking lot was designed to accommodate the number of people who could roughly recreate there safely without it being a dangerous situation or destroying park infrastructure. So about this last year, city staff started looking at different models for a more active management approach, because I think it was agreed upon by all the stakeholders that we discussed with, visitors to the park, police department, commercial outfitters, conservation groups, that the current levels of use were really unsustainable at the kayak park without becoming unsafe as it could be, and really destroying park infrastructure. And so we looked at a couple of models for taking a more active management approach. One would be using city staff, potentially hiring seasonal employees to try to staff the park on the busiest weekends. And then the other model we considered was trying to bring in a firm that had river recreation experience and had experience managing folks on the river. And it was the opinion of staff, and after discussing again with other stakeholders, that bringing in a firm with experience to try to jump into a place like this would be have a higher likelihood of succeeding than hiring seasonal staff in the way that we do, say, at the FAC. And so the city, what we've done is released a request for proposals for seasonal lease of the kayak park. And this would be from beginning of May to the end of August, or Labor Day basically, in September, for a firm to come in and lease the kayak parks on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from sunrise to sunset. And when we released this request for proposals, the standards we were looking for were basically to try to limit capacity on the weekends to no more cars than can fit in the parking lot. And so whoever was going to come in and manage, we asked that when the parking lot was full, the gates would be closed, not literally, but that no one else would be allowed in until other people left. We would move to a paid entry model on the weekends. So it has been free, but on the weekends from May to September, we moved to a paid entry model to cover the costs of trying to staff the kayak park. And then those folks who were there staffing the kayak park would also be taking care of bathrooms, which our parks staff currently does 7 days a week, taking care of trash. Again, if you can imagine trash in bathrooms for 6,000 people when there are two bathrooms, the facilities cannot sustain that number of people. And so the staff who would be there on the weekends, they would manage trash during the day so it didn't pile up. They would keep restrooms cleaned regularly. They would communicate park rules to visitors as they enter. They would alert the Siloam Police Department if there were any unsafe activity, illegal activity, or if people were parked illegally on the road. And so hopefully, instead of police not being able to get down there until there were too many cars to tow, we would know right away whether or not the park was full and whether we needed to start watching for illegal parking. And so in our request for proposals, we were looking for a firm who could do the following. Prioritize safety for all visitors, protect park infrastructure and critical riparian vegetation, address neighboring landowner concerns, create a family-friendly atmosphere, and foster a conservation-minded river recreation culture, effectively manage the current needs of commercial float operators, and plan for future potential expansion of commercial float operations as WOCA opens downstream later this year. And then facilitate improved communication and cooperation between the various stakeholders whose jurisdictions all coincide at the kayak park. You have the Game and Fish Commission, you have Benton County Roads Department, you have Siloam PD, City of Siloam Parks and Recreation, Benton County Sheriffs. A lot of various jurisdictional entities run into each other down there. And so having an entity who can facilitate communication between those various jurisdictional entities would be really important for us. So we advertised the RFP in both digital and print media. We received 2 proposals back. Those proposals were reviewed by staff and also by our Parks Advisory Board. And it was the opinion of staff and the Parks Advisory Board that the Illinois River Watershed Partnership had the strongest proposal that would be able to manage the park in the manner that we described in our RFP. And you'll have attached to your, I believe, with your packet, their proposal, but I'll kind of go over the management approach that we'll be looking at in 2023 with this lease agreement through IRWP. So number 1 will be trying to repair damaged park infrastructure. That's actually happening right now through a previous grant with IRWP. They are rebuilding stream banks, trying to revegetate stream banks down there. We're in danger of losing some pretty large trees that would, one, change the nature of the park, and then two, also necessitate much more expensive stone revetments in the future. We would hire a firm to lease the park, sunrise to sunset, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from May to September. We would move to a paid parking model. Our proposal currently is $10 a car. Our management strategy this year is to try to be as simple as possible, knowing that there are going to be a lot of unknowns, and we will need to adjust as we learn and go along. But we would look at $10 a car. We would accept only electronic payment for two reasons. One, there is a danger of having cash on hand, large amounts of cash in a remote area. We don't want anybody to be in that position. And then two, for accurate bookkeeping, we would just do electronic payment. That's the same model that's being used at WOCA. And so the management approach is harmonized. We've tested a couple of software point of sales down there that do work. And even if there's spotty cell reception, they have an offline mode to where they can continue to take payment. Another thing we would look at doing is charging a commercial boat fee on the weekends. So currently, outfitters do their business from the kayak park and have for almost the past 10 years. What we'd be looking at this year is, if we're going to start charging patrons to enter, we also start having some sort of fee for commercial outfitters operating off of the city property. And so we would be proposing a $1 a boat fee for commercial outfitters. We would also be providing a commercial access lane downstream of the drop structures. And those drop structures are those rapids that you see out in the water. Currently, commercial outfitters put in above those drop structures. Everybody goes through them. And when there are 6,000 people in the water and you have another 50 boats coming down, it can be pretty dangerous. So we're looking at putting a commercial access lane downstream, have commercial outfitters go a different route, have kayakers and visitors stay in the parking area. We'd be closing the gate when the parking lots are full. The gates would be locked on Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night to prevent vandalism. And then the staff there would be reporting, of course, any unsafe or illegal activity directly to PD, cleaning the bathrooms through the day. We're looking at offering more summer programming at the kayak park. Again, communicating to the public this is a managed area. It's there is stuff going on here. And I think when you communicate that kind of care and some sort of presence, people are much less likely to behave badly. But our overall feeling is simply managing capacity is going to solve the majority of our problems. The majority of our problems, in my opinion, don't come from specific behavior, but from the fact that there are just too many people that the park cannot safely accommodate. There will be some potential revenue. Again, it's very difficult to forecast what that might be because we really are looking at significantly reducing capacity at the park. I've tried to put together a conservative estimate based on last year's numbers, based on what we might reduce down to. I think it is very conservative to expect 300 cars a weekend as an average. That would be, if there's 100 parking spaces, that means on Saturday, parking lot fills up, which it already does, and that would assume zero turnover. So just assuming zero turnover, you got 100 on Saturday, and then 50 on Friday, 50 on Sunday. That feels very conservative to me. If you extrapolate that over 18 weekends, 5,400 cars for the season, at $10 a car, potentially $54,000 in revenue. We're estimating about 150 commercial boats a weekend. If we did a $1 per boat fee, it's about $2,400. So, a conservative estimate is something in the realm of $55,000, $56,000 in revenue is what we'd be looking at. We are recommending that we approve this lease with Illinois River Watershed Partnership. This was the opinion both of staff and of our Parks Advisory Board. Some of our reason being they're a proven entity with Siloam Springs roots. They have almost 20 years of practical consensus building experience on the Illinois River. They already have existing relationships with all the jurisdictional entities that we need to collaborate with. They're supported by neighboring landowners. They have good relationships with Game and Fish, Walton Family Foundation, our state legislators. They've been working at the kayak park since it was built. Their logo's already on the sign if you go out there. And on a bigger picture, RWP will be able to use these recreation opportunities at the kayak park to address recreation on the Illinois River more broadly. As WOCA opens, as we move from 500,000 people in Northwest Arkansas to 1 million people trying to recreate in Northwest Arkansas, they'll be able to use this opportunity to try to find a way. How do we do that and protect both the landowners who are nearby? How do we protect the people who want to recreate? How do we protect the water resource that we all share? They're in a good position to bring those folks to the table, in our opinion. And of course, there are a lot of unknowns. We had 57,000 visits last year. We estimate 36,000 individual visits. So some of those 57 were repeat, but just one-time visitors, 36,000 people. If we reduce that capacity by 2/3, there may be 24,000 other people putting pressure on other free spaces. Would be something we need to consider. The average visit to the kayak park is 2 hours, is the average what they call the dwell time. So at this rate, if that continued, which may change with the paid model, it's hard to say, but you could easily turn over that parking lot 3 times every Saturday, meaning significantly higher revenue than we expected. Or it may go the other direction. People think it's going to be too crowded to show up, and they stop showing up. It's hard to say. You will see in our report here, the financial agreement with IWP would look like this. They, as a nonprofit, are not trying to make a profit. They're just looking to cover expenses. So they have their expenses laid out in the proposal. They would keep any money up to their expenses. Any money over their expenses would be paid to the city as rent. In the event that there is some shortfall, which could potentially happen, could potentially not, the city would make up that difference, seeing as we're the ones setting the rate for the park and kind of setting the model. We would make up that difference for IRWP. And then going into future years, start to look at how this first year went and adjust as we went forward. And this is currently just a 1-year agreement as we experiment with a new management model. So that is the lease agreement that's set in front of you. I'm present for questions. I should hopefully be able to answer most of them. We also have representatives from Illinois River Watershed Partnership here, and I stand ready for any questions you might have.
Madam Mayor?
All right, yes, Betsy.
You mentioned Friday through Sundays. How about Memorial Day, 4th of July?
Correct. And I should have been more specific. In the lease agreement, it is every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, plus holidays.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, David.
Travis, this is an incredibly informative proposal, and I appreciate you putting this together. I think it is, well, I told you before the meeting, I think it's idiot-proof. I think this is absolutely exactly what was needed to explain the problem. I was here when this was open. This was never the intention of this kayak park, ever. This is a lake scene. This is not a kayak park scene. And it's sad that it has become that, of no fault of the city, but people wanting to have recreation. And so I can tell you, if I was boating from upriver and came around the corner and tried to get through that, I would be like, whoa, how do I get anywhere? So I think it's a great idea to charge. I think it's a great idea to limit the entrance. And I've said for a long time that we have some of the property further up. We could add a few more parking places, but I think the number one thing, of course, is to do what you're doing here. And I mean, I know a lot of landowners out there, and this was a nightmare that they never asked for. And it was one of those things where you look at these pictures and your mouth just falls open, especially trash and bathrooms and things like that, the unsanitary problems that occur. And it really comes down to the abuse and misuse of what it was intended for without anyone really being at fault. It's a beautiful place. We should protect it, and I have appreciated the IRWP's already attempting to fix the problems we've had with the bank and everything we've worked. But do you need an actual proposal to approve this at this price, $57,000?
Christina, is that what we are looking for tonight, is approval of what they've presented?
It's approval of the lease.
Of the lease, okay.
I make that motion that we approve the lease for $58,984.51.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I do have some questions.
Sure.
My granddaughter used this quite frequently last year, and she had a hard time getting her car out. Once she got it in, she couldn't get it out. In fact, there were a couple of times she called me, I can't get in to get my car out. How do you work that?
Are you talking about because people were parked behind her?
Couldn't get in. I wasn't there,
Sure.
so I don't know exactly. My answer to her was, is there a police officer out there? And she said yes, and I said, go ask him. And that's what she did.
Sure. It's hard to say. I would assume it was probably on a very busy weekend, and that's where the Siloam Police Department often had difficulties with. The parking lot would be full, the road leading to the kayak park would be full, people would be trying to park in the driving lanes, making it hard for emergency vehicles to get through. So I could imagine that happened. So in this agreement, the IRWP would be letting in no more cars than the parking lot can hold. And when you reach that number, which is roughly 100, no more cars would be allowed in. Okay. So and then again, if people are parking on the county road and walking up, the attendants would inform them, we're sorry, the park is full. And if individuals are parked illegally on the county road, they will be towed.
My other question regards the general liability insurance. I think it's marked at $500,000 per occurrence.
I think
a lot of times there's an aggregate and an occurrence.
Yeah, let me open it. I thought it was $3 million, and there may be.
I missed that somewhere.
There may be an older copy. I'll have to look in here.
Where it mentions.
And let me do this. I'm going to let Leif Kindberg, who's the executive director of IRWP, speak to that, because there could be a chance that in one of the proposals you're looking at, there may have been a number off.
I'm looking at item 5.
In the lease agreement?
Yes. On page 98. It is on my.
Oh.
I don't know. It's not. Statement of intent to secure insurance and business license.
Leif, would you be able to speak to that?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Leif, please pull the mic over. Yes, thank you, sir.
All right. In the lease agreement, which I don't know exactly where it is in the agenda, but it does have a $3 million single occurrence and $3 million aggregate. The proposal, the RFP did stipulate that it was $500,000, but we decided to propose $3 million.
So it is 3 and 3?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't see that, but if you say it's in there.
Section 3.1. This is in the lease agreement.
Okay.
And I do assume it could be in the RFP that our minimum was $500,000. What IRWP is proposing, Section 3.1 A is commercial general liability insurance with minimum combined single limits of $3 million for each occurrence and $3 million aggregate.
It's page 102 on our.
I found it.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing that I appreciate at the very beginning, you were going to make life jackets available. I don't know if that's been done before.
That is also, it's not specifically in this lease agreement. It's in their proposal.
In their proposal.
But we will be partnering with RWP this year to have a life jacket loaner program. RWP's kind of leading the charge on this. We're providing the station for them to hang them on. They're going to be providing the life jackets. We're putting up signage. So yes, we will be doing a life jacket loaner program this year.
I used to go down there. Well, during the summer last year, I was there at least once on the weekend, and it is loved to death. That's the problem. Everybody likes it. But I do think that I like to see life jackets. Most people did not have a life jacket on. Even young children didn't have a life jacket on.
We're going to be amending signage this year, and then also having IWP, as people enter, communicate the park rules. But the state law is that any person under the age of 13, if they are on a craft in the water, that includes a kayak, an inner tube, any sort of craft, they are required to wear a life jacket. Now, the city cannot enforce that, to my knowledge. I can be corrected. That's the on the river, the Game and Fish Commission, but that is the state law. And so we're going to be providing life jackets through a loaner program at the park.
How many are you going to have out there? And different sizes, I'm presuming.
So we're going to purchase about 300 to hopefully carry the life jacket loaner program for.
Okay. Okay. I'm glad to see that.
Sounds good.
And for those that couldn't hear on the microphone, they're planning to purchase 300 life jackets.
Thank you.
Not all out at one time, but.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Your last page, Travis, on, your unknowns of maybe sending people to other, I think that's fine. City Lake needs more attention. It really does. People need to go out there, and if they go to Weddington, that's fine, because what they're doing to us is what it looks like they would be doing at Weddington, and I think they're just going to kayak because it's more convenient. But, several of the board members, Carol was here, Judy's here, this was not the intent for it to become like a lake environment. It was meant for recreation, for kayak and tubing. We did say tubing, but not just to become a swimming hole. That was never the intent. And so I'm really pleased you're doing a preventative, trying to fix the problem.
And if any of y'all have been out there on the weekends, it really is a very celebratory environment, and we want to maintain that. There are families with big grills, large families cooking, kids playing in the water. We don't want to discourage that.
Mike Brown is here, and Mike explained when we were looking at Woka, you will be able to travel from here down to the Woka. I don't know how many miles, but you'll be able to float.
That's true.
All of that distance, and so you may see more entry here, but not hanging around here.
Sure.
Once Woka
Sure.
comes open.
And that's another good point, is that we don't know what will happen once Woka opens and how that will change interaction on the water. But my best guess is one way or another, there are going to be more people recreating on the water on the Illinois River near Siloam Springs.
Madam Mayor? And did I hear you say that you did a test to see if you would get access to charge, on an electronic device?
Yes, I believe IWP has gone down and tested their point of sale system, and you had no troubles with it. And their point of sale system also has an offline feature. So in the event that cell service does get spotty, they can continue to take payment, and then it uploads once they get service again.
So where would this be positioned? Right where they're coming in?
So for year one, the plan again was to be as nimble as possible. So what we'll plan to do is right when you come in the gate, where the current kayak park sign is, we were going to be putting up a temporary 10 by 20 tent. It says Siloam Springs Kayak Park on it. They would do business out of that tent. So they would, as a car comes in, they walk up with their iPad or whatever their point of sale system is. They communicate the rules to the patron coming in. They take payment. It's either credit or debit, Cash App, Apple Pay. I can't. It's in here which all payments they can accept.
Oh, I think you're talking.
So they can accept a pretty broad variety of digital payments that we think most people use in some form or another.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just one quick
Sure.
comment. I think this is a great solution to what kind of became a bit of a problem, a few problems because of the popularity. It's great that people are wanting to use the park, but it did become a bit of a problem in several areas. Just want to make sure, I'm sure you all have already thought through all of this, but just ways to positively communicate to the public that these changes are coming.
Yes, and that's very important. So my plan is, if this is approved by the board, we'll basically immediately start a campaign, for the lack of a better term, on social media, on our website, trying to promote as quickly as possible what the plan is for 2023. One of my personal worries is the fact that we are trying to reduce capacity so much. There will be people who want to come and can get down there and it's full. This is a national problem. We've looked both state and national, state parks, national parks. What do you do to manage capacity? The national practice is tell people to get there early. What we would like to find a way to do is to communicate in real time roughly how much availability there is. So right now we are looking at a potential camera that would live stream to the Kayak Park website, so people can at least get on there before they come and say, how full is it? Whether that, we're hoping that happens in 2023. WOCA is doing something similar. They're having it built by an outside party, a custom app, and we may wind up having to go that route eventually. But we are trying to find ways to communicate to the public what the changes are as quickly as possible.
Thank you. And I love that idea of being able to sort of in real time give people.
There should be a way,
That's great.
some way to do it.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't want to go, you could just
Yeah.
check it out, live
Yeah.
cam, and see what's going on.
There you go.
Mindy, is that all? Yeah. Okay, anyone else? If not, we do have a motion.
I
Oh,
just want to say one last thing. Thank you so much to the Illinois River Watershed Partnership. They have been a partner of the city with this from the beginning, and they just do a lot of help. I mean, even Sager Creek. And so thank you, Travis, for representing the city and your connections there. And just thank you. Please thank them for all they do for the city of Siloam.
Will do.
It's very important.
Thank you. So we do have a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Motion is approved for the contract. At this time, we are going to take a 5-minute break, and then we will reconvene in 5 minutes. Thank you. We'll call this meeting back to order and continue on with our agenda. First is our contracts and approvals. Item M is city clerk salary adjustment. And Jay, I believe you have that information for us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, at the previous meeting, the board adjourned into executive session for the expressly stated purpose of considering the terms of employment of an employee. Under state law, once the discussion involving the employee for whom the executive session has been called, once that has been completed, the executive session is required to end. Because of some actions that took place then after the executive session, specifically, there was a vote to adjust the acting city administrator's salary, but then there was a second vote without any public discussion to adjust the salary temporarily of the city clerk. And because there was not any public discussion about that prior to the vote, it raises an inference that there may have been some improper discussion in the executive session, and that leaves the the vote and the action subject to challenge. And so rather than leave Renee vulnerable on that, our suggestion is that if there is some confidential information concerning the clerk or her position that needs to be discussed in executive session, you would have that option of saving this and going into an executive session later to discuss it. But if there is no confidential information that's going to be involved in your decision, then our recommendation would be simply to state publicly the reasons for the salary adjustment, to make a motion and a second, and have a public vote to authorize the adjustment of the temporary adjustment of the city clerk's salary. So that's our recommendation, and we're available for questions.
Thank you, Jay. So directors, I will ask you at this time if you have any questions for the attorney, or if you have would like to open a discussion concerning the salary adjustment.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
Jay, you stated because there was no public discussion. There was no public discussion after our first vote regarding the city administrator pay at the last meeting.
That's correct.
Why would there be a need for public discussion for the city clerk's pay?
Well, because you can only discuss one employee in the executive session, and since there was no public discussion about the second vote, again, it just raises an inference that there could have been discussion in the executive session. And
well, our city code says that the board of directors sets the salary of the clerk.
That is
right?
That is correct.
Okay. What do we need then? A motion, Madam Mayor?
So I think that what we're looking for is a motion to approve the salary adjustment and make that recommendation to our administrator to have that put in place. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So that is what we're looking for.
I make that motion.
Okay. Renee, you have that motion?
Second.
Have a second. Okay.
Madam Mayor, this will be retroactive as well.
Yes, that is correct. So included in your motion, David, then you would have it retroactive to, I believe it was March 8th.
And continue for 30 days past the
hiring of the new
city
administrator.
Right.
Okay.
Do we need a dollar amount or not?
I believe the proposal was $250 for the city clerk.
I didn't know if it had to be stated here.
And it's probably a good idea that we put it in there so it is in the record. So Renee, you have that motion? Okay. So do I have a second?
Yep.
Yeah.
Lisa?
Somebody seconded it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we already have a second. All right, Ken has seconded. Okay. So do I have anyone in the audience that would like to address this item? If not, directors, we have a motion and a second. We'll call for a roll call.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Christina, you will move forward with that.
Correct.
The next item is the acting city administrator salary adjustment. Jay?
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. So just continuing with our previous discussion, there was a vote taken after the executive session to amend the acting city administrator's pay while she serves in that position and for 1 month following. It was brought to staff's attention later on that there was an intention by the board to increase that pay retroactively to the date that she accepted it, which was March the 8th, as we discussed before. So in order to make that pay increase retroactive, We're just recommending that you make that motion and take a vote and make it official.
Thank you. Directors, any questions or comments about that? If not, anyone in the audience that would like to address that salary adjustment? If not, do I have a motion to approve the pay increase for the acting city administrator, retroactive to March 8th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley. Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Motion is approved, retroactive to March 8th. Next is the bond for acting city administrator. Jay?
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. So it is a requirement of city code that the board consider setting a bond for the administrator or acting city administrator. It can be in an amount, any amount at the pleasure of the board, other than the fact that it cannot by law be under $25,000. So we do have the availability to acquire a bond through the Arkansas Municipal League. That's what we've done in the past, and that would be the staff's recommendation is to acquire a bond through the Municipal League at an amount set by the board, not less than $25,000. And I'm available for questions.
Thank you.
Matt.
Christina? I'm sorry, but before I just need to ask Christina real quick, did we get a price of what that bond would cost if we did that?
We did not, because it is going to vary greatly depending on whether it's closer to 25,000 or closer to $500,000.
Okay, thank you. Betsy?
Madam Mayor, does the bond that we pay for the city administrator, does it not already cover the acting, the interim?
I believe the bond is specific to the person. So it's basically a bond for me specifically.
Okay, so the other one is over and done, so we need one just for you.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Mayor.
Yes.
So here it says that we have in place a bond, but you're saying it says
There's
for an employee, but
for
is this
employees.
a positional
This one is
requirement?
Yes.
Yeah, I was confused by that too. We have an employee bond for up to 300,000. Does that mean any employee?
Yes.
Why would that not apply then for the administrator as well, acting administrator?
I believe that's because the law specifically states for an acting city administrator, you need to consider whether you would like to have a additional fidelity bond.
If I remember correctly, it was actually, the law said that we had to do that. And that law has been revised now to say that it is optional.
May.
You may. It's not, you have to, but you may. So that is up to the board to decide, rather than it being an action that you have to take. It is your option.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Now, is this for things like the contracts that the city administrator would sign and just anything that the city administrator would be involved in? Because I don't think I think it should be more than 300,000. Do you know, Jay?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question for me, please?
What does this cover the city administrator for? Is it like for the contracts that they sign?
It would be that, any sort of malfeasance that would be of a financial nature. I would have to look at the terms of the bond specifically to see how broadly it's worded, but yeah, typically it just has to do with matters that could harm the city financially.
So is 300,000 sufficient, or should it, in your legal opinion, should it be more?
we've never had to call on one of these particular bonds, so it would obviously depend on the circumstances. Obviously, there are deals the city gets involved in that are in excess of $300,000, sometimes by a significant amount. But in my opinion, that would be a workable number.
300.
To have some protection for the city without an excessive cost.
What did we have on the previous one?
I don't know that figure off the top of my head.
Anybody know?
For the city administrator, you mean? I think it was $50,000, which I didn't quite understand. Why it was
That's not enough.
I'm not sure how much it was exactly. So.
Okay.
Maybe that's just what's in our requirement. I just know 50,000 somewhere saying we must, or we did. So it may have been higher.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mindy.
could we not just say, let's do what we had before? Can we not just go with what we've had? It seemed to.
In an amount equal to what has previously been.
Right.
Basically like an insurance
Yeah.
policy, is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Just 50,000.
It didn't sound like you were real sure about that, right?
Well, no, I don't know if I saw 50,000 as to what we have in
Or
our
what's required.
city code,
Right.
or if it was, but, well, it was part of Mr. Patterson's contract. That's where I saw it, that he would have to have a bond for $50,000. But my question is, since the job is interim, are we needing to definitely do this in that it is a less than year term? I'm not sure.
I would think, looking at it in my viewpoint, that it would be more important for somebody that was interim. And this has nothing to do with you, okay? Because they're not, so. But I think 300,000.
But that's what we already have for any employee.
But I'm talking about one in addition for the city administrator. But I don't know the cost, because we don't know.
Can we ask that some options be provided us at the next meeting and what the cost would be for different amounts?
Christina.
I can certainly provide options if you give me the range that you're looking for. If you're looking for $1 million or $500,000 or just $300,000 versus the
Do all three.
$25,000 minimum.
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
I'd like to
read.
request that we check on 300,000 and we check on whatever it was with former administrator.
Does everyone agree with that, that we'll then actually table this until the next meeting and ask for that information to be brought back? And Christina, whatever the previous administrator was in the 300,000, is that right? Okay.
Correct.
Can we add $1 million to that as well?
Okay. We can add $1 million to that if you
Certainly.
can get that, yeah.
$1 million.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
just so I'm clear, let's say something happened, Christina would already be covered for the 300,000, correct? And then this would be in addition to that?
I don't know, Jay, since she is now acting administrator, I realize she's still our city finance director, but
Yeah, I would just have to check the language of the current bond, and we can report on that when we come back, just to see whether that would be covered or not.
Thank you.
okay. So then, do I have a motion to table until the next meeting?
So moved.
Yes. Second. We have a
Second.
motion and a second to table, and you'll bring back the information?
Correct.
Was that Mindy that made
Yes,
the motion?
yes.
Okay.
Roll call?
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is our regularly scheduled items. Ordinance 23-05, third reading, amending City Municipal Code, Chapter 102, zoning, self-storage facilities. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board, Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. You're considering the final reading of the zoning code update to require self-storage facilities to be used by right in industrial zones and as a special use in the C2 zone. No comments or have been received since the last reading, and staff and the Planning Commission remain supportive of the ordinance, and we are available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Directors, any comments or questions for Ben? If not, is there anyone in the audience that has a comment about ordinance 23-05? If not, directors, do I have a motion to place ordinance 2305 on its third and final reading, suspending the rules and reading title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Motion is approved. Christina?
Ordinance number 23-05, an ordinance amending Chapter 102 of the Municipal Code with respect to consumer self-storage facilities.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 23-05?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second to adopt. Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen. Carroll.
Yes.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2305 is approved. Next is ordinance 23-06, third reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from I-1 to PD, the 21,000 block of South Arkansas Highway 16. Ben?
Yes, thank you again, Madam Mayor and Board. Before you is the final reading of the rezoning at the mayor mentioned at 21,000 block of Highway 16. Again, this rezones with a 1.8 acre strip to PD to match the main lot's current zoning. Staff has not received any additional comments since the previous reading, and we in the Planning Commission are recommending approval. There was some discussion at the last meeting on the questions of Corridor Road extension, and so I'd like to hand over this presentation to Mr. Don Clark so he can give you some more information about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Don?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Board. Don Clark, Community Development Director. So wanted to add some points of clarification from the last meeting. There were a couple questions I think even originated from the first reading. So Keck Road is the county name for Corridor Road, and that's to the east side of Highway 16. So I will be speaking to Corridor Road on the west side. In 2021, I believe, might have been even possibly in 22, there were a list of 13 projects. Kevin had previously mentioned that this was on the list of that 13 projects brought to the board for an option to potentially bond streets. This project was listed number 13 on that priority list. Some of those streets there are higher priority. Just for reference, so Kenwood, Highway 16 to Bruce Rutherford, Country, which you just approved a contract for us to design that portion. Country Club, Brashears to City Limits, Tahlequah, Hyco to Country Club. The Main Street Bridge was on that list. Kenwood Street, Mount Olive to Lincoln. East Main Street, Maxwell to Lincoln. Sager Creek Drive, Hyco to Lincoln. Highway 16, Kenwood to Highway 412. Quarter Road, Holly to Elm. Don Hill Road, Highway 43 to Oakcrest. Highway 59, Highway 412 to Kenwood. Brashears Road from Hyco to Lincoln, and then number 13 was Quarter Road. So just add a little context here. It is 1,950 feet from Waukesha to Highway 16. It's a future collector street, which is intended to be 37 feet in width. Dogwood Place, the project that's associated with this rezone, will be responsible for constructing 980 feet at 2/3 of the width across the frontage of their project. The estimated remaining cost that was on that list back in 21 or 22 when it was presented was for that portion of Quarter Road, Waukesha to Highway 16 was about 2.3. Today's estimates of the remaining 970 feet for the realignment is $2.3 million. That's also with estimated design costs of about 15% of $358,000. So I just wanted to bring that up to say for us to address this portion of street, it would be about $2.7 million, and that could be done simply by amending the budget for 2023, or staff's suggestion would be that we look at it in the future, being mindful that there are a list of 12 other streets ahead of this one for priority. So I just wanted to make sure I brought that to your attention, since there were some questions about it. And again, we're talking about Quarter Road that would be west of Highway 16 to Waukesha. Kenwood again is, Keck again is on the east side, and it is currently located in the county. Should there be a development proposal on Keck Road, whoever is responsible for that development would be responsible for making sure they improve the frontage, just like Dogwood Place is doing for their section of Quarter Road. Thank you.
John. So directors, do you have any comments or questions for Ben or Don on this rezone? If not, is there anyone in the audience that has comments or questions for ordinance 23-06? There being none, I will come back to the directors. Do I have a motion to place ordinance 23-06 on its third and final reading, suspending the rules, reading title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Whistler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Christina?
Ordinance number 23-06, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code City Zoning Map, rezoning from I-1 to PD, property located at the 21,000 block of Arkansas Highway 16.
Thank you, Christina. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 23-06?
So
moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Whistler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Ordinance 23-06 is adopted. Next is ordinance 23-07, second reading, annexation of 18.47 acres at 2270 Don Hill Road. Megan, I believe this is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Megan Thomas, Planner 1. This is the second reading of an annexation request located at 2270 Don Hill Road. As a reminder, the request is to annex in approximately 18.47 acres into the city as R2 residential medium zoning. Staff is still recommending approval of this request with no needed conditions, and staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Directors, any questions or comments? Being none, I will move to the audience. Do you have any questions or comments on ordinance 23-07? If not, do I have a motion to place ordinance 23-07 on its second reading, suspending the rules and reading title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hunt,
Yes.
Whistler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Christina?
Ordinance number 23-07, an ordinance accepting the annexation of certain territory described as 2270 Don Hill Road to the city of Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and assigning same to a ward.
Thank you. Next is resolutions. Resolution 20-23, preliminary plat development permit, Heritage Ranch subdivision, phases 4 and 5, 2270 Don Hill Road. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Let me get the right presentation up here. I believe that's the correct slide. So resolution 2023. So thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board, Ben Rhodes again. So what you're looking at is a preliminary plat that will be taking in 63 single-family lots on 18.47 acres. This is at 2270 Don Hill Road to the north of First Baptist Church. And if that address sounds familiar to you, that would be the same property that you just voted for second reading for the annexation. So this is the same property, but we're now looking at the preliminary plat on that property. So here is the site plan as proposed. Some notable features is the extension of West Cattleman from Phase 3. This will connect to Don Hill Road, which will provide another ingress-egress for the houses that are currently under construction in Phase 3. The tension is at the southwest corner on 2 lots, as I will circle right here, right down on the southwest corner of the property. Those are both detention basins. I want to specifically draw your attention to the top right corner of the project site, as I have in the circle or the square there, and that's that same area that's blown up. Staff has had some concerns with this area in terms of the grade difference needed between 2 lots at the end of the cul-de-sac compared to the existing house to the north. The proposed lots will be considerably higher, with about 7 feet of exposed foundation due to the rise needed with the lot grading. The applicant has added a restriction, as you can see shown on the lots there, 19 and 18, that will prevent 2-story houses from being constructed on those lots, which will help prevent on some of the visual impact that those lots will have on the neighboring house to the north. So here are some photos to better illustrate the condition that we're trying to mitigate. So on the top left, you see the existing condition with the rise of the hill as one travels south on Don Hill Road. And this is the front of 2274 Don Hill Road. The rises will be increased by the proposed grading to accommodate the planned cul-de-sac being kept generally level with the cul-de-sac opening out on Cattleman Lane. The bottom left picture is an example of what a house may look like when constructed. Please keep in mind that this example is a 2-story house, so these will not be allowed per the plat note. But the idea is just to give you an image of what these houses would look like where you have exposed foundation, basically kind of like a walkout basement, because the grade goes up so high from the location of the top left. So we thought, well, we could require a fence, but the problem with that is that the fence limits is 7 feet. And as you can see from the picture there, there's already a fence on that property. So staff looked at a similar issue of grade differences between existing properties and proposed development of planting Leland cypress trees as suggested as a condition of approval. This was used for the Dogwood Terrace project, if you might recall, out on Holly and Quarter Road. So staff believes a similar mitigation will work in this case. You will see the proposed trees on the right. These are quick growers. They grow about 3 feet a year. We would require that the trees are planted with the approval of the final plat, and the developer has agreed to this solution. The trees will be planted no greater than 7 feet apart and will acquire approximately 50 trees. The total boundary distance affected being about 345 feet. The trees will be provide effectively what we call live fence and the green wall, if you will, that will virtually screen all activity on the lots to the south and also to the west of the existing house. At the Planning Commission, this condition was amended by the Commission to require that the trees are at least 3 feet in height when planted. Thus, this was updated in the proposed resolution before you. So when looking at the approval criteria, we're showing the R2 zone per the pending annexation. You'll see the lots are meeting the minimum R2 lot width and size. Sewer is available, and the applicant did comply with the requirements of the plat approval process set out within the subdivision regulations. In the land use code, under the reasonableness of the proposal, on the piece and enjoyment of the neighboring properties, we find that if the applicant does abide by the suggested conditions of approval, this criterion can be met. The proposal is 3.46 units per acre, which falls below the maximum density allowed in the R2 zone district. Traffic will increase by 602 vehicles per day. However, this increase is not to a level to interfere with the existing neighborhood quality of life standards to a degree considered a disruption to the peace and enjoyment of the area. Not all new traffic will use Don Hill Road. There are several other ways in and out of the subdivision, which I'll cover in a second. In terms of the neighborhood compatibility and context, criterion 2, the future land use map calls out for neighborhoods 1 in the area. The proposal is consistent with this designation. Neighborhood 1 allows for 2 to 6 units per acre. At 3.46, the proposed density is consistent with the land use plan's guidance. As mentioned earlier, staff is suggesting that the applicant provide specialized screening to address visual compatibility issues with the existing house to the north of the proposal. For criteria 3, generally staff finds that no aspects which would substantially burden the present or neighboring land uses. The lots are sized the same as earlier phases, this being the logical extension east of the existing subdivision by virtue of an approved stub-out street on the east side of Phase 3. So there was always an assumption that this development would carry on to the east. The issue of the lot grading could be applied here as well, but as I've mentioned, our suggested condition addresses this. In terms of infrastructure, you see that there's water and sewer lines in the area, and these are rated to a level to accommodate the proposed development. For the next two criteria, we do feel that this project meets the level of sound planning for city growth. The final phases of this development will pose acceptable impacts to Don Hill Road. There will be multiple ways in and out of the subdivision, so one road will not bear the brunt of all that increased traffic. There are connections back to Carl Street and North Lexington Street, both which will tie back into Mount Olive Street, which runs east-west at that location. Housing does remain in high demand region-wide, and this addition will partially alleviate the need for new housing units and will help keep the housing affordable in our community. Finally, the rest of this criteria on the left side, the proposal meets these as presented on the preliminary plat for your consideration. And moving on to the future land use map, you see that the site is neighborhood 1, which I covered in terms of the density, et cetera. The key takeaway is that this proposal fits within the map's designation. And now I'd like to pass the floor over to Mr. Kevin Moore, civil engineer, who will cover more of the traffic impacts in the area. Kevin?
Thank you, Ben. Kevin Moore, city engineer. Don Hill is the most direct connection from this subdivision. It's a collector street with a design load of 9,000 vehicles per day. Existing traffic counts over the last month of 1,750 vehicles per day, plus the already approved Commons subdivision on Don Hill lead to 2,000 vehicles per day in that area. We're expecting an additional 600 trips per day with these 63 lots. And again, as been mentioned, those would be split between Don Hill, Lexington, and Carl through previous phases of the surrounding subdivisions. The existing drainage in the area primarily flows either northeast to the existing channel there or south and west towards previous phase of Heritage Ranch. Note the floodplain in the northeast corner. The developer is not proposing any fill within the floodplain, though it will partially determine some of the elevations of the buildings there. Here again, about a third of the site drains north and east to that floodplain, and then the remaining 2/3 drain south and west. And then the two proposed detention ponds on either side of Lexington will drain west to the previous phase of Heritage Ranch. And that detention pond was designed with that in mind. Here's aerial view looking north of the subject property, and I'll let Ben speak to conditions of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. So here you see the site. This is looking to the north, First Baptist Church being in the foreground at the bottom there, the green roof there. So in conclusion, staff is recommending approval of this application with 4 recommended conditions, and I will cover those really quickly. These are to annex the property and zone it as R2, that the developer sign an agreement regarding the current shortage of electric transformers, the agreement essentially stating that the developer is proceeding at his own risk with this development. To require that the engineer of record update the drainage report to reflect comments on the 100-year water surface elevation, and finally to require the planting of the Leland cypress trees as a live screen. The trees will not be permitted in the floodplain. And with that, staff stands ready with any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Directors, any questions or comments for Ben or Kevin? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Resolution 20-23? There being none, I would ask for a motion to approve Resolution 20-23 with the listed conditions.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is Resolution 21-23, Significant Development Permit for the 3400 block of East Highway 412 Neighborhood Storage. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, Megan Thomas, Planner 1. This is a significant development permit request to construct a 77,210 square foot self-storage facility with 12 proposed storage structures and a small office space. This project is located at the 3400 block of Highway 412 East, just directly behind Tractor Supply. This property was previously rezoned to C2 in order to allow for this use. On the screen is a site plan for the proposed development. North is to the right, and that is also considered the frontage of the site. The small office space will be located here in Building B. It's kind of hard to see because it's so tiny. This proposal is exceeding the minimum parking required with parking shown throughout the development. You can see that there's parking in between some buildings here, along the sides, along the rear, and then in the frontage as well. There is an existing detention area that's shown to the north of the site here, as well as a proposed detention area that's outlined in blue here. As a condition of approval, the applicant will be required to file drainage and utility easements via separate instrument prior to building permit issuance. This proposal also includes a 6-foot opaque fence that surrounds the rear and sides of the site in order to screen from the abutting residential uses to the south and to the west. Additionally, there are no proposed dumpsters associated with this request. Due to repeat overflow issues at these facilities with dumpsters, the applicant has stated that they will only be utilizing commercial roll carts. And this is a more clear site plan, just so you can see the parking a little better and what they're actually proposing. I'll let you guys take a look at that. And this is the landscape plan for the proposed development. They will have a 6-foot landscape buffer along all sides of the site, as well as interior parking lot landscaping and a 6-foot opaque fence that I previously mentioned. And these are the elevations for the 2 front buildings. They're the larger ones. And these are the elevations for the remaining buildings throughout the site. And this is the site view for the property. You can see Tractor Supply to the north here. There is an existing access easement for this drive here that they will be connecting to in order to allow connection to Highway 412. Staff is recommending approval of this request with 1 needed condition. The only condition is related to the off-site utility and drainage easements. These will need to be filed by separate instrument as directed by the city engineer. Staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Directors, comments or questions?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
I just wanted to make sure that there isn't any drainage problems back there. I walked back there, but I didn't see any. I mean, it's pretty flat, so.
Kevin Moore, city engineer. Yes, that area is flat. They are there. So there's an existing detention pond here off to the east on the very right side of the picture, south of Popeyes and some of those other developments. And then their detention pond that they're proposing for this project will be wrapped around the east and south sides where this existing pond is today, and it'll outlet in the same location. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Resolution 21-23? If not, I will come back to the directors and ask for a motion to approve Resolution 21-23 with listed condition.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Yes.
Wiles. Hunt.
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next, we move on to our staff reports. This is discussing our retention and detention ponds. And Don, I believe you have the floor, sir.
Yes, thank you. Just a moment to get this pulled up. All right, Mayor Board, Don Clark, Community Development Director. I believe you all were provided a printout that shows detention ponds that are within our city limits. Staff wanted to provide some context. We thought that would be helpful prior to the next board meeting. If you recall, prior to our next board meeting, there will be a workshop as it relates to drainage. So we anticipate that being a lengthy discussion, and we thought this would highlight particular subject that we could discuss prior to that workshop. So currently there are 40 ponds throughout the city that are maintained by city staff, totaling 34 acres. 35 of those are maintained by streets and infrastructure, and 5 are maintained by parks. City ponds currently are mowed on a cycle of every 3 to 4 weeks, depending upon weather. And if you recall earlier, there was some questions about what type of mowers we use. This is the areas that we use that remote mower to allow it to be mowed no matter the condition for certain ponds. City ponds currently are inspected yearly for maintenance and functional issues to make sure they're acting and are working in the way they were designed. There are a list of, if you see on there, there's about 56 ponds that are private. What that means, there are residential areas, a couple that we know of where POAs maintain private detention ponds, meaning that they keep them operating, and then the rest are commercial majority. So in a commercial development, what is done, that is still, when they develop a commercial project, much like the one you just approved for the storage facility, that is a pond that would not come to the city there to maintain it themselves. So there are times that those ponds are not functioning correctly. And so we wanted to bring it to your attention and to the attention of the public. If they're aware of any of these private ponds or public ponds that they don't think are working correctly, we would ask that they please bring it to our attention so that we can look into it and come up with a plan to make sure that they are operating as they are designed to. So I just wanted to make sure that, we brought this up now prior to that workshop, as again, we expect that to be a long discussion, and we're available for any questions on any of these particular ponds. If we don't have the answers tonight, we will make sure we can provide them at the workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Directors, with this information in front of you, Betsy?
Exactly. I know. Don's like, oh, it's Betsy with drainage again. I'm sorry. So I know there are a lot of private ones and they're supposed to be kept up. Is there any way other than like a citizen just saying, hey, there's a problem? Is there any way to keep up with them?
potentially there are on private property, so we typically don't go onto private property unless there's an issue. I think, again, the majority of them, we're very aware they are kept up and maintained. If there's some that we see that we believe to be out of compliance, we go into a code enforcement action and ask to see it. That's typically for things that we can see from street level on the outlet structure, but as far as getting in and inspecting them after, there is, again, typically only if we know that there's an issue. So, for instance, you bring up drainage, and please don't apologize. We appreciate it because sometimes we just don't know until someone brings it to our attention. If there was a drainage problem somewhere and we went and inspected it and we thought that it was coming from a private pond that wasn't functioning correctly, then we would then go and say, hey, we need to, evaluate this pond to make sure it's functioning correctly because something's changed and it's causing issues downstream.
Okay. I have a question about one of them, and I don't know the addition, but once I get further into it, you'll know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. So what I haven't written up and sent to y'all has to do with the Wyrick Farm, Walnut Grove Farm.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they're in the county. However, their drainage issues are caused by an addition that's built over towards 43. So I have a picture of it on my phone. There's a retention pond built for that addition that's off of 43, Sunrise Homes or something. Anyway, from their retention pond, I call it like a giant concrete slide that goes from the edge of their retention pond, and it ends on the border of the Walnut Grove Farm property. So their resolution for getting rid of drainage is this giant concrete slide right onto somebody else's property. And this is probably a whole other discussion, but yeah, now they rent their fields, and it's a swamp, the trash, everything, it's a mess.
So I would believe, correct, Kevin, if you know better, you can correct me, but it'll either be one of these two ponds. And so typically what happens, just to bring you back to what you approved tonight in the preliminary plat, phases 4 and 5, we go through the detention and we talk through what those improvements are, and we go through a drainage report that we typically get from a civil engineer. Some of those drainage reports are 300 or so pages, am I correct? And so what we look at is, and we'll go into more detail about this at the workshop. So what's looked at that point in time is what can be done to mitigate and take care for the development. There are some times where there are private property impacts that are not necessarily caused by a new subdivision, but it could potentially. At the beginning, what we do is we go through those detailed reports and make sure we have a good plan. Well, we can do this for this specific one, and you'll hear Kevin go more into detail about this at the next meeting. We think there are a couple of things we can do in the interim to address some of those. A lot of these things are designed to the 100-year flood. Am I correct? And if you ask me, we see the 100-year flood at least 2 or 3 times a year now. Right. So we have to change some of our methods of calculating the water and the potential impacts. And so that is a proposal we're going to bring to you and talk to further. If there have concerns here, we can definitely go out and look at it. What we normally do is we go back to the drainage report, we go back to the construction drawings, we go back to what was supposed to happen and make sure it's happening. And if it's not, if there's any correction that needs to be made, we could do so.
And I will write it up and send pictures like I have. I can't get over the fact that there's this giant concrete slide for their drainage and it ends on somebody else's property. I'm having a hard time grasping that that's okay that they did that.
and again, I can't speak to it because I don't have all the information in front of me. What we would seek to do is anytime we get these drainage concerns, typically what we want to do is make sure the public is aware how it's supposed to function, because sometimes they're not aware. They see a swell in their yard and it rains quite a bit, and then now that swell fills up and it's concerning to them. The water is still in the swell and it's not on their property, but seeing the water in that swell concerns them because of the amount of water in there, and then it typically dissipates. What happens in those situations is there are drainage easements on those private properties, and a lot of times the ponds or the drainage channels are doing what it's designed to do. It's just that, maybe prior to them purchasing the property, they have never seen it do that. Now they live there full time. They see a large rain event and that water's going where it's supposed to go, and it's shocking to them. So a lot of times it's just educating them. In this particular case, Kevin is over here and I think taking notes, and are you prepared to speak to that one particularly tonight?
It's the Gilberts and the Lansaws,
Yes.
and they've owned it since 1935, and
Yes.
they've spent $10,000 trying to fix drainage on their property.
Right, and some of that cost, if you were, no, you wouldn't. But there's some during the development of this, it was mentioned, and a lot of those improvements they had started to do on their own before these developments were even there, and unfortunately dammed up some of their property for them trying to provide some relief to their property before these developments were there too. And so at the time that it came up, we didn't think it was the developer's responsibility for what may or may not happen there. We're absolutely open to going and meet with them if they have those, and if you send those to me, we absolutely will. And Kevin, you can come up and speak to that one particularly if you need to.
Yes, thank you. So if we're talking about the same one, that concrete channel, that concrete chute that you're talking about. So in our detention design, one thing that we do is have them design an overflow. And so that should only be used if we see a storm in excess of the 100-year, or if something clogs the outlet structure and it's not performing as it needs to. That's to direct the water in a specific location that's away from other structures in a catastrophic rain.
Yeah. No, and that makes sense. I guess I still find it a little, if that were my property, yeah, I would be pretty unhappy. So, but I understand what you're saying, and I went and drove around and looked at the pond and all of that. So
yeah, and those are usually placed in places where the water has historically gone, and then again being mindful of the structures that are downstream if that is used.
Yeah.
But to my knowledge, none of those have actually overflowed into that safety net.
Right. Thank you.
And I'm definitely not an engineer, and there are two in the room that can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but a lot of those times there are built infrastructure to help mitigate flooding. And what you see in a torrential downpour of a lot of water is flash flooding, and that happens all over the place. Right. We won't be able to honestly build big enough infrastructure to prevent that from happening. You see it a lot on streets. You have a storm inlet, and there's so much water that is coming to that storm inlet, it all can't get in there, so now the water's pulling up on the street. So what Kevin said is accurate, and again, we'll go into more detail on this at the workshop. But if that basin was overwhelmed, the water's got to go somewhere, and so it is designed to go towards their property. Yes, it's their property, but not a structure on their property to where water already is there in that catastrophic event, should that happen.
Yeah.
So that's a great question, though.
So, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Lisa.
Dawn, just for the public, can you say when that meeting is, where it's at? Say the workshop.
The workshop is April 18th, and it'll be at 5:30. We would need every bit of an hour, I believe, to talk through some of those things. Again, I think we have some potential fixes in our drainage criteria manual. We'll just have to bring you up to speed on that and what we're proposing. And then obviously we would talk to developers, and then it's ultimately we have to have the political will to hold them to it once we decide this is how we're going to look at these things going forward.
Thank you, Don. Anyone else? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this retention and detention pond discussion? If not, thank you, Don, and we look forward to that workshop. Next is the update referencing the FOIA statements by Mr. Blake Jones at our last meeting. Jay?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me. You've received my report in your packet, so I won't read that to you. Just in very brief summary, Mr. Jones has been provided with a great deal of material over the past several years. City staff and the police department in particular remain committed to making sure that he gets every piece of information that he requests, every record, every document that he is legally entitled to get. And that has been our goal from the very beginning. I did review his most recent concerns. I met with several of the police personnel, either in person or by phone or email, based on the information that I was able to gather and a review of the materials that were provided, I found no violation of either law or city policy in the actions that were taken by the police department. Chief Gilbert did his own review and reached the same conclusion. In particular, about some unredacted recordings that he asked for and has not received, there is a mechanism available to him to receive those. It is through the court. It is not through FOIA. FOIA requires that those redactions be made. But if we receive a request for any of that information that comes through the court, we are committed to complying with that and doing that fully and as quickly as possible. So anyway, that's basically where we are. I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you. Directors, any questions for Jay at this time?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Betsy.
So has he been informed of all of this and that if he wants this information, he'd have to go through the court?
Yes, he has been informed of that.
Okay, thank you.
And he's met with city staff a number of times this week. Yes.
Thank you.
I'll just say thank you, Jay, for following up and letting the board know.
All right, thank you very much. So with that, we will move on to our January financials and then the administrator's report. Christina?
Mayor, members of the board, it appears the January financials are not included in the agenda packet, and that is because I sent the February financials. So at the next meeting, I will have the January and the February included in the packet.
Thank you. And your administrator's report.
So expenditures in excess of $30,000. $31,240 was spent for structural fire personal protective equipment. $38,600 was spent for an above-ground secondary pedestal with a 350 connector, that is electric inventory. $45,600 was spent on 1637.5 kVA pad mount transformers, and $35,600 was spent on 1175 kVA pad mount transformers. Per resolution 43-22, $97,807.50 was spent for 1725 kVA pad mount transformers. $64,000 was spent on 8 pad mount switchgear vaults. $69,231.50 was spent on 25 kVA pad mount transformers. In 2018, the city had a large amount of cash sitting in the bank, earning very little interest. Approximately 7 million of that was moved to investments in treasury bonds. This year, the city has another large amount of cash that will again be moved to treasury bonds or accounts with higher yield. In the current banking environment, I would like to remind everyone that state law requires bank balances to be collateralized 100%. FDIC covers the first $250,000, but pledged assets cover the remaining balances. Since the last meeting, the question of funding nonprofits has come up several times. Funding for most nonprofits ended after the 2008 financial downturn, when taxes coming into the city declined. There was a push to identify a dedicated funding source for the nonprofits. However, when that did not occur, the city pulled back almost all funding after 2009. In 2014, there was a lawsuit against the city of Little Rock, which resulted in a ruling that found Little Rock to be in violation of state statutes, wherein all money provided to an organization be for specific goods or services to the city. And since that time, the city has continued to only fund entities who provide specific services that the city cannot provide and have a service contract in place that is approved by the board. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. So with that, we will move to our director's reports, unless, directors, you have any questions for Christina on her administrator's report?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I was just gonna, Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
I was just gonna ask on number 2, Christina, where and how do we purchase the treasury bonds?
So the way that we purchased the treasury bonds last time was we basically contacted quite a number of banks and asked what any fees would be associated with placing the bonds. And we went with the cheapest cost to the city, which ended up being Regions Bank.
I couldn't hear you. Regions Bank?
Regions Bank, yes. And we'll do that same process again this year when we move, before we move funds.
And you do it based upon the lowest fee?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Christina. So we will move to the director's reports, and I will remind directors that your comments need to be generalized, not specific to any citizen or board member. And with that, we will move into your comments, starting with you, David, and ending with you, Mindy. David, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Regarding earlier comments from the previous meeting, I wish to apologize to the committee for making a statement that was incorrect. Upon hearing the rumor that Director Rissler had applied for the city administrator job in 2014, I checked with the city and was told there were no records of her having done so and no applications on file. I went so far as to ask Lisa's husband, John, as well as a close mutual friend of Lisa's, if they knew, and said that she did not think she had, but that with her husband having passed away, that she did not recall. And I made my judgment based upon believing what I'm told from people that I trust, as most of us do. Pardon me. So with that, I will say the claim of a secret meeting on Halloween is utterly ridiculous. This was the secret meeting. Trick-or-treating with a little girl. Here's Betsy and the little girl. Here's Ken and the little girl at his house. Here's me at my house. That was the secret meeting on Halloween that was brought up at the last meeting. I mean, how ridiculous can we get? I serve at the behest of the people. My term is up next year, so I don't quite understand the pursuit for a recall, except the previous grudges that have been against me personally. I've always served to benefit all citizens of the city, not a select few who make demands as if they are the only voices that should be heard. I will say that I appreciate greatly the respect and kindness and attitude of cooperation from Mrs. Kelsey Howard, who has come before us several times, and she always speaks eloquently. She is respectful, asks questions, and wants to help. And that is a far cry from some of the other comments. So I appreciate her, and I appreciate her attitude of wanting what's best for the city. I will close with a friend's comment to me. Sent me this morning. And when they bring you before the synagogues and the rulers and the authorities, do not be anxious about how you should defend yourself or what you should say, for the Holy Spirit will reach you in that very hour what will teach you in that very hour what you ought to say. That is Luke 12:11 and 12, and I greatly appreciate her inspiration to me to keep fighting the fight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, David. Carol?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to thank Marla for her presentation on the Manna Center. It does play such an important role in the city. I want to thank Dawn and the IRWP on their presentation. I think we're going to have a wonderful summer out there. I hope it all goes well. Last week, I visited the animal shelter unannounced. I found the facility very clean. I found the animals very well taken care of. The workers there were very informative and knew how to take care of the animals. And so I was very pleased, since I was one of the founding people of the animal shelter. And I think it has played a very important role in the city. And I think it's presenting itself very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to remind everyone that next week we start our spring cleanup here in the city of Siloam Springs. You can go to the city's website to kind of get an idea of how that works and what happens and when it happens. And I know this is the week of our Easter. Call it a celebration, you can call it a remembrance, but it can also be a time of just being able to see physical hope that we have. And I'd like to just convey that to everyone, that we as a city can operate in unity, and we can be a blessing one to another. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Reed. Lisa?
A couple weeks ago, Kevin Williams, a citizen that comes often to the meetings, wanted to know if there's any way we could do the baby box at the fire department. I was wondering if we have any information on that. And I probably should have sent an email ahead of time, but I think the chief's on the committee.
Jeremy Kreiner, Fire Chief. So I reached out to Audio Girl Ministries about that question, and the current fundraising opportunity, we're almost to our goal, and so we think for the baby box that we're putting in at Fire Station 1, we're where we need to be currently with pledges and the amount of funds that we receive. So if the city wanted to participate in the future with a second baby box somewhere in the city, that would be an option that you could pursue.
Okay.
But yeah, with our current project, we are just about to our goal.
Do you know how much short you are?
I don't know the exact number. She said that the current pledges that were out there, just awaiting for them to come in, and we should be close.
Okay, thank
yep.
you.
Thank you.
And with that, I want to say praying our city has an amazing Easter and why we celebrate Easter. People celebrate it in different ways, but I pray that everybody stays safe and appreciate what we have that holiday for. Thank you.
Betsy?
I just wanted to address quickly the issue of transparency, and everybody wants transparency, and they're upset that what was discussed in executive session and reasons and reviews and on, that we're not being transparent. So I did a little research, and I could be wrong but from what I learned, basically when somebody asks me for this information to be transparent and share what was said in executive session, they're asking me to break the law. And I take that very seriously. From what I could gather, penalties for breaking this go anywhere from $100 to $1.5 million, and or 1 year in prison up to 10 years in prison. So it's not a matter of not wanting to be transparent, hiding secrets, whatever. It's a matter of not wanting to break the law. Most of my close friends will tell you, I'm transparent. I'll tell you anything you want to know and more, unless it's confidential. So please keep that in mind when you ask to know more information. You're asking me to break the law, and I won't do that for anybody, except maybe speeding. I want to thank Christina and Dawn. I've been to and heard from 15 different areas of town regarding the flooding and the issues, and so I really appreciate all the work that staff is putting into that. I know it's a lot. As far as Marla and the Manna Center, I think that's awesome. I hope that Tyler, Carol, and Marla can maybe get together and see if renting his storage space might be helpful, beneficial, until they can get either the Boys and Girls Club or something else built. The senior center, like I like to tell, it's still there. They have lots of awesome activities. They're even doing, on the 20th of this month, make your own tie-dye shirts, which we do that in our family every year. It's a blast. So if you haven't gone to the senior center, if you're a single person, if you're married, have a partner, whatever, go check it out. Have a meal. They have all kinds of great activities. They have outings on Thursdays, most Thursdays, painting classes, all kinds of stuff. But the place I went to this past week, I'd been to before at a First Friday Coffee, and I didn't really understand what their purpose was. It's Ability Tree. I thought they did speech, OT, used to be an occupational therapist, physical therapy. I thought it was that kind of place for people with special needs. I was very wrong. It's actually like a rec center for kids with special needs. They have this awesome gym. I wanted to go play. It's pads everywhere. They have a thing you can step on and make music. They have slides and swings. They have this awesome craft room. They have outdoor stuff. They do things like after school care. They do parents' night out. And I guess before I tell you some of that stuff, it's not just for people whose children have special needs. They also have a community membership. So if you have young ones, you should go check it out, or even a little bit bigger ones. It's a blast. They have all kinds of stuff there. The membership is $35 a month, which is nothing. You can have your birthday parties there. They have this big gym with all kinds of fun stuff. They have sensory rooms with cool stuff. So you don't have to have a child with special needs. You can take your kids there. You can have birthday parties. Once a month, they do a parents' night out. So you can bring your kids and even teenagers, if you can get a teenager to go, and drop them off. And there are all kinds of things for different ages. And the parents get a night out. they also do training for churches and businesses, like how to include people and children with special needs. So they do a lot of that. It's a ministry based program. They also have, it's called Connections University, and that's for 18 to 30-year-olds, and they partner for a lot of stuff with JBU, and the kids, adults, that age is still a kid. They can audit classes. They have all kinds of different lessons and goals, and they do lots of different things with JBU. They also have like a little soccer league, all kinds of things. So I highly recommend you go check it out if you have kids, whether they have special needs or not. Some of the things required besides the $35, like Connections University, there is a tuition thing, but they also have all kinds of scholarships. If you can't afford the $35 a month, there are scholarships. So they want it to be inclusive for everybody, and they do an amazing job. Like I said, I used to be an occupational therapist, and I specialized in children with special needs. And this place is awesome, even if you don't have special needs. The other thing is they do need volunteers, so anybody who's ever interested in helping out, they appreciate any volunteers from anybody. So, yeah, go check it out. It's awesome. And then last thing, Citizen was watching about the medians and what, the best way to handle them. And they recommended and sent some examples of cities who did wildflowers in the medians. But then I also know that requires at least a lot in the beginning, pulling weeds and stuff like that. But it would be pretty. So anyway, just thought I would put that out there. And I think that's everything. And if it's not, it's Ken's turn anyway.
Let me
Thank
see
you,
your
Betsy.
notes. I'll finish.
Okay. Ken?
Obviously, tonight ran longer than normal, but there was a lot of information, good information, given out tonight. It was very factual, very well put together, and that just makes our job so much easier, even on the tough decisions. When you can lay out all the information in a factual, thought-out way, it just is so much easier for us to do the job that we have to do. And I just want to say how much I appreciate all the presenters tonight and what they had to say and the way that they presented to us. I was going to say it makes the job fun, but I don't know that I'll go quite that far. But that's all I've got.
Thank you, Ken. And Mindy, before I turn it to you, I just want to make one comment. I'm sorry, I didn't remember. I attended today, and I believe, Reed, you were there also at JBU. President Chip Pollard did a State of the University address, and it was very informative, and it's amazing what all they have going on, and what they are offering to their students, the opportunities they are giving them. They are a top-notch university. There's no two ways about it, and they offer programs that I had no idea that they were available, and they have some new programs that they are getting ready to start. So I encourage any of you that would like to reach out to them. They would be more than happy to give you a tour, to give you information about those programs and what's going on. It's really a great asset to our city. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. So Mindy, to you.
Okay. Since Betsy brought this up, I'll go ahead and share some information. I have been asked a lot about the executive sessions and the confidentiality of them and the transparency issue and all of that, and so I thought I should do some research as well. And I got a little bit different information. I had always heard that executive session was confidential. The fact that we can't take recordings into those meetings, we don't take notes, all of that definitely implies confidentiality. And so I reached out to the Arkansas Municipal League Legal Counsel and just asked them for clarification. What are the rules around executive sessions? And I'm just going to read exactly the response that I received. You are correct in that the allowance for executive session does imply that things said in executive session should be kept in confidence and remain private. The FOIA allows for conversations regarding the limited topics found in Arkansas Code 25-19-106 to be had away from the public and off the record. However, as you alluded to, there is not a state law prescribing any action for breach of this confidence, at least that I am aware of. Legally speaking, the code allows city councils to set the rules of its proceedings, compel attendance of members in such a manner and under such penalties as it prescribes, and set rules for the agenda, the filing of resolutions, ordinances, and citizens' commentary. The council could certainly set its own rules about confidentiality, but I'm not certain that any actual penalties could be enforced for breach of these rules. Ultimately, I think the way that you're responding to questions about executive session, which is that it's confidential, is a best practice, and I encourage others to act in good faith and do the same. So I understood that to mean that we could sort of set the rules on what is said or not said as far as an executive session is concerned. But he did go on to say that what we've been doing is best practice. So I'm just throwing it out there as just another piece of research that's out there regarding executive session. And it may be that Jay could look into it a little bit more since the public has been asking. So I just went straight to AML because I didn't know where else to go. I looked myself for rules about it, and all I could find was the reasons for having an executive session, but I couldn't really find anything that said what could happen after an executive session. So that's just FYI. Christine, I sent you an email about this a few minutes ago, but would you mind letting us know what you find out about the Higginbotham residents at 622 South Wright Street? I'm sure you're going to check into that. I saw you taking notes. If you'll just let us know what you find out from that and how we're going to resolve that if there is a resolution. I want to thank the citizens again for coming. It's nice to see the seats full, so I appreciate that, and for letting us know what your concerns are, giving us suggestions, making comments. I know it's not always easy to do that, so I appreciate your taking the time to be here and to speak. Also want to thank all those who are praying for our city and for our city board members. I know a lot of people have reached out to me, assuring me that they are praying, and I just really appreciate that. I want to wish everyone a happy Easter, and I'll just finish with Christ has risen. He has risen indeed.
Thank you, Mindy.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
What I found was under personnel. I didn't look under executive session specifically. It was under personnel.
Yeah, this was executive session specifically that I was asking about.
And Mindy, I was told the same thing.
Okay.
All right, thank you, directors. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.